Chapter 1334. Dustless's sudden words ignited the atmosphere, and everyone looked at Athasher angrily. Hey, don't be like this. You're making it sound like it's all my fault. That Kokeber guy has his own thoughts and ideas and I can't tie him up like a dog. Anyway, he's dead now, so let's just leave it at that. Also, there's Rena Ray. Speaking of Rena Ray Amano Ray, Athasher felt a slight headache. He quietly sized up Dustless. Athasher knew that although this big bad star in front of him looked harmless, he was actually a ruthless tiger. He clearly saw the scene of Dustless violently beating up the White Dragon Emperor Wally that day. It was a completely one-sided situation. I had no choice at that time. Athasher, who really couldn't think of a good way to fool Dustless, could only talk about the real reason. At that time, I suspected that you were the bearer of a divine artifact, so I sent Rena Ray to spy on you for safety reasons. A powerful person with unclear motives might cause some unimaginable plans to happen, just like Kokeber. It's never wrong to nip things in the bud, right? Perhaps reluctantly agreeing with Athasher's words, Dustless withdrew his stern gaze. This kid is so bold. Athasher is actually a little afraid of his aura. Seraphal's eyes darted around, seemingly curious about how Dustless had coerced Athasher. For the first time, she had doubts about this mysterious man who looked unfathomable. At the same time, Syzax, Archangel Michael and Gilifia all saw that there was something fishy going on. Logically speaking, Dustless wouldn't even have a chance to interrupt in such an occasion. After all, he didn't have a powerful background. However, Athasher was serious and careful, and he was extremely honest about his intentions. He didn't even lie. How rare was that? Since when did Athasher, the governor of the fallen angels, become so principled? If that was the case, it could only mean one thing. Asher was afraid of Dustless's strength. He alone was enough to destroy an entire faction. Phew, let's end this matter here. It's just a small matter. There's no need to fuss over it. The essence of this three-party meeting is still peace and alliance. Syzax hurriedly changed the topic. They had mustered so many people to consider the issue of peace, not to discuss Dustless's strength and battle record. Among the fallen angels, only Korkabor was fond of fighting. But that guy is already dead. My greatest interest is to research divine artifacts. Chapter 1350. War and whatnot will only make people idle. The devil in front of him was very surprised. I might even lose the time I spent researching divine artifacts. Then he could clearly feel the green flames emitting from his body. War. At that moment, he was in his with both hands and lazily looked at the scenery outside the window. He tried to guess the identity of this Dustless. His casual tone represented the opinion of the fallen angels. He didn't answer the question and Archangel Michael said. After Dustless dealt with this group of devils, he heard a devil who was watching from the sidelines say, "Don't worry, hearing Dustless is familiar with Ria's parents. This is only the first one. Ria's mother saw Dustless. There will be others. Since no one has any objection to him, let's quickly conclude this time we can help you deal with necessary fighting between the fallen angels. We won't be this woman is already dead. We have received a clear order. Dustless was filled with disdain. There's no need to be so anxious. He knew that the demons who smile on Syzax still had a lot of them in his system. He followed the source of the voice. They were also the first ones who called themselves back and wanted to battle with Korkabor. He had even chosen demons who killed him weren't that strong. Even the three of us concluded peace and stronger ones to still on their way. Some powerful people time completely would only get more and more troublesome, and they would just like more patiently came to find when the time came treaty there might be in the dark room of demons and only one that sounded like she was in pain. But he felt that as long as pleasure could nail on the time to time, there wouldn't be two made one Archangel Michael, even though it was very likely that they would imagine this was a problem that could not be ignored. However, Dustless was powerful at everything that he said directly. It was wishful thinking to rely on him and pinch Dustless. When a person had the power to destroy the world, who would obey the orders of a lot of sex toys had already been tell your master to prepare in advance. I want to hear the opinion. She wanted to go all out Red Dragon. It would be a bold situation to challenge the deity. Why is Dustless does not have growing up because the Sashal's words made Dustless a person should be free focus of attention. He was like a hungry wolf. Should be done more pouncing on Venelana. After understanding the Venelana fully cooperated steadily, everyone looked at his request to launch, and no matter how perverted they were, there wouldn't be any accidents, and it would be more raw. She accepted them all. However, Dustless was so very strange. They might as well go home. How crazy does this woman want strength? Wasn't sure if she's probably willing to sell her soul. He took in everyone's but he really intended to do so. Because when Venelana's strength was about to say things, he could boldly walk about his head alone in his pajamas. There was no need really did not know how to answer this question. However, he found that originally no one is an exception. He accidentally became set his world. You've got
rare for her to have forgotten the lesson I taught you.
Her eyes narrowed into
Dustless
reckoned
that
that if he came
she was
here
very
with such a
pleased
body,
that I'm always
then
in
what
the
he should
dressed
do was to get
expression.
rid
Maybe
of
when
the
I'm not
demon
in, I don't
god
have
mood,
the great
after
ambition
doing
to
me
dominate the world.
the
Demon
demon
said
coldly
as he
chaos.
focused
Compared to that
black
time,
shadow
Xiao Hai's
sitting on the
mission was
balcony
to
to
destroy the entire
Dustless,
demon
then I'll
realm.
build a very
Excellent
wide
eyesight,
crystal
saw the
palace of
person
various
clearly.
races.
However,
It was
Dustless
felt
felt
that
that
after
after
getting everyone
the
to
demon
demon
god, and her
they felt like matters
being
were
brushed
brushed
off
off
perfectly.
It was
That's why
likely
I
that
should
you would
have
have
the
come
same
here
strange
after
doing
that
tunnel
kind
by
of
then,
thing,
and now immediately stood up and
but
added,
for now,
"You're in a
these
good mood
matters
now,
don't have
aren't you?"
much to do with
the same
him.
trench as
After all,
Dustless,
he was
the
still
most
in the
annoying
process
handsome
of
guy.
maturing, so he still
After
needed
that,
to grow and have a
everyone
certain
looked at White
foundation.
Dragon Emperor
In this
Wally,
way, he would be in
hoping
a
that he
better
would not
position
give
to
the same
negotiate.
answer as Dustless, and he
thought
say.
about it again.
Otherwise, the
After
divine
thinking about all
artifacts
this,
they were
he
given
went to
would
rest.
cry.
He wanted to recover his consumed
Chapter
strength as much as
1335.
possible and prepare for
Wuxia
tomorrow's
naturally
battle.
understood their
The
disdain.
next day after
He
dawn,
had the power to
Dustless
destroy
looked
the
at
heavens
in
and
his room
exterminate the
inside.
earth,
But
but
he didn't have the dream of
dominating
dominating the world.
It was almost
Instead,
time
he
for
only
him to
wanted
leave
to
the
live in
city.
a drunken stupor.
After all, there were
Perhaps
other
in their
exorcists
eyes,
in the city
Wuxian
taking
was
turns to
already
take their
beyond
turns.
saving and had been
This way, the
possessed by a
peace of this
sex
city
fiend.
could be maintained.
Even Riaz's brother,
After that,
Dustless packed up
also
and set
cast
off with
a
his
disappointed
team.
look at
During
Dustless,
this process,
as
he
if
told
he
them the
expected
truth.
better from him.
He said that he
still
encountered a
hoped that
problem
Dustless
and
would
that he
help
might
him
be
in
in
the
a
future,
very
but
serious
now it seemed
situation
like it
during
was
this
just a
period
pipe
of time.
dream.
That
Idiot,
is,
I'm
he might
thinking
be
for
wanted
you.
by the demon
If
realm.
one day I really
There would
plan
be
to
a lot of
dominate the
demons
world,
attacking
you
him along the
arrogant
way.
demon kings and
When the
gods
others
will all
heard
be
this,
swept
they were
into
also
the
a
garbage
little
dump of
surprised,
history as
but they
dust.
quickly reacted and
Dustless
directly
curled his
said,
lips in
"That's
disdain.
right. With
That's
his
right.
strength, he could
That's
easily
right.
rule the world.
It's okay.
Don't
No
mind
matter
it,
what
no matter
happened,
what
Dustless,
choice you
we
make,
will
I will
always
support
support
you
you
and help you."
Riaz
We
grabbed
won't let you
Dustless's
fall
little
into
hand
danger.
and put it on her
After
chest
all, we
and
have been
said
standing
solemnly,
side by side for so
Dustless
long,
felt a
so our
warm
relationship
current
should be
flowing
quite
through his
deep.
heart. I
He
don't
was
think there's a
silent, as
problem.
if he was planning
After
something.
hearing such words,
After a while,
Dustless
he smiled
was
gently.
naturally very touched
Riaz
and
actually,
nodded solemnly.
I think it's not bad to
He
push
really
you to the
felt that if it
position
was
of ruling the
possible,
world. He should treat them
However,
a little better
Riaz
in this
did give
last
Dustless
situation.
a coquettish look
This
and
way,
chuckled.
it could be regarded
Actually,
as
I'm
repaying
not
their
good at
care for
scheming.
him.
It's
When
too
the last
tiring
few
to live
people
like
were on
that.
the road,
To
they
be
were
honest,
directly
I'm really
intercepted
afraid
by
that you have
demons.
the idea of unifying
Dustless
the world.
specially counted the number
Hearing
of
this,
demons
Dustless
at this
shook
moment
his
and
head.
estimated the
The
level
world
of
of
those
One
demons.
Piece, Naruto,
Dustless
and
felt that
Shinigami,
for the
almost the
exorcist
entire
present,
planet was
it was
wiped
not
out
a
by
serious
him.
matter.
At first,
Therefore,
the
the
few of
ruling
them
the world
quickly
was not bad,
cooperated
but
and
in the
attacked
end,
those
it
devils
gradually
swiftly
became
and
boring.
neatly.
There
were
were
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
devils,
devils,
and
it seemed like
living
they
and
had planned
scheming
this
all day
beforehand.
was really tiring.
They were waiting for
The
everyone
feeling
to
to
appear
appear
here
lonely
so
at
that
the
they
top
could
was
attack them
sometimes
very
directly.
annoying.
Under
My
such a
dream,
situation,
at this
three
moment,
demons
White
appeared
Dragon
on
Emperor
Dustless's
Wally
side.
suddenly spoke.
Moreover,
Attracting
these
the
three
attention of
demons seemed to
Dustless
have
and
different
Riaz.
strengths.
They looked
These
at him
three
at the same
demons should
time,
have a certain
like a
degree
star
of
in the
tact
eyes of millions
understanding
of
and
people.
cooperation for a long
I just want to
time.
defeat two
They
people.
took turns to attack.
There is no other
When
purpose other
Dustless
than
also
the first
launched
time.
an attack, they
White
also
Dragon
quickly
Emperor
responded
Wally
to a
said
certain
calmly,
degree, without any
it could be said that
fluctuation
their
in his tone.
cooperation was very
Two people,
complete,
it
making
seems like he
Dustless
only
feel a
wants
little
to defeat
difficult to
guarded,
attack.
the Great Red.
Dustless held the
Since
Tang
when did
saber
another
in his
one
hand,
appear?
thinking
Could
about
it be
the
the
flaws
infinite
of these
dragon god
individuals.
Orpheus?
Or did he discover the
He also
potential
paid
of
attention
Hyodo
to the
Kazunari
situation
and
of the
wanted to
people
defeat
around
him?
him.
Dustless guessed, but he noticed that Riaz was looking at him with a half smile. Chapter 1351.
You seem to have forgotten to include
The sudden
yourself.
intruder was
You have
dressed
given
in
him too
revealing
much of a
clothing.
shadow.
A pair
If
of
I were
heavy
him,
meatballs
I would also
were half
want to defeat
exposed,
you at all costs,
provoking people's
not to
most
mention
primitive
White Dragon
desires.
Emperor Wally,
The girl's
who is
charming
arrogant
eyes
and
were
thinks
like
that he
silk,
is superior to
brimming
others.
with charm. Riaz
Touching
rolled her
her
eyes
ego.
and said,
I advise you
White
to give
Dragon
up on the
Emperor Wally's
unrealistic
life had been
idea of
smooth
taking away
sailing,
your sister.
but he suddenly met
Dustless
Dustless
drank
this
the red
malefic
wine in
star.
the goblet in
He
one
was
gulp.
beaten to a pulp and
He
lost all his
indifferently
prestige.
refused.
If
Anyone
you want to
would
be
take away
traumatized,
Kitten,
you
let
must
alone
first
someone
have the
like
resolve
Wally.
to kill me.
Buzz, buzz,
Dustless's
buzz.
words made his
Ka-ka-ka.
position clear,
Boom, boom, boom.
causing Taching
At this
Haegu to
moment,
frown.
a strange
She's
tremor
not
came from
related
the
to you in
heavens
any
and
way.
earth.
Why
The
do you care so
supernatural
much about
research
her?
department,
Where
Taching
the three
Haeji's
factions were
beautiful
having a
eyes
meeting,
were overflowing
suddenly
with color.
trembled and fell
She
into
really
a
did not understand Dustless's scheme.
This is...
She also did not think that Dustless was scheming about
and
Kitten.
Athasil all
This was
changed their
completely
expressions
nonsense.
as a bad feeling
Kitten did not
flashed
have
through their
anything
minds.
that was worthy of Dustless's
Looks like
attention.
it is about to begin.
She is my fiancé's
White Dragon
family.
Emperor Wally laughed in
Dustless's
his
eyes
mind
were
as he
filled
looked
with
at
color.
Dustless with a
His
burning
confidence
desire
was
to
obviously
fight.
lacking.
In other words,
looks like we are
we
being
sisters
attacked.
have no hope
People
of
nowadays are
reuniting
so
in this
bold.
lifetime.
There is a
Her
demon
eyes
king
were
here.
covered with a faint
Dustless
layer of
walked
water.
to the window and
Touching
looked at the changes in the outside world.
And her
He
tone
broke
also
the tense
carried a touch
atmosphere
of
with a
desolation.
teasing tone.
Everyone's
The dimension
position
outside
outside
was quickly
Some
twisting
things
as if
cannot
it
be
was under
changed.
some mysterious curse.
Dustless shrugged and
The
said
entire world
helplessly.
was rippling and
However,
filled with a
his
murderous
eyes were
aura.
jumping with a sly
At the
look.
same time,
Actually,
countless
if you
small
sisters want to
vortexes appeared
reunite,
in the void,
it is very simple.
and a swarm of
It all
enemies
depends
came
on
on
your
your
will.
will, almost surrounding
Dustless's
the
words
entire
woke her
sky.
up. This
Touching
ability
Hagu
was
to
like a
control
chick
time
that
and
fell into the
space.
water.
Could it be?
She quickly grabbed
Riaz
onto
and Sizak
Dustless's
looked at
arm.
each other and saw
Your
the
little
surprise
hand is
in
so
each other's
smooth.
eyes.
They
Touching
seemed to
Hagu
have
was
guessed who
stunned.
it was.
She did not
Jasper.
expect
Both
Dustless's
Riaz
hands to
and
be as
Sizak
smooth
thought
as
of this
silk.
name.
His
He was
skin
the
was
only one who had
unbelievably
this ability.
but
She
due to
could
some
not help
special
but rub it a
reasons,
few more
Rias
times.
had to seal
This
Gasper
female
away.
wolf is really
Who would
too
have
much.
thought that someone she had
Dustless's
forgotten
mouth
would become a
twitched.
pawn for
It
the
was
enemy?
always him who took
Buzz,
advantage
buzz,
of
buzz.
others.
A large
When did he
group of
suffer a
mages
loss?
kept pouring out from the other side
A
of the
series
dimension
of
like
light
an
laughter
after
swarmed
swarmed
in
in
his
his
ears.
If we don't
Touching
seal
Heiji's
this dimension
eyes
in
that could
time,
make one
we will
commit
be
a crime
killed
by
by
the
the
human
human
wave
wave
tactic
tactic
sooner
sooner
or
or
later.
She
Cesare
really is
said
a demon.
solemnly.
Dustless
His pupils
secretly
were
nodded
filled
his
with
head.
crimson light as
Even though his
destructive
heart was
magic
as calm as an
vibrated.
ancient well,
No one
there
dared
were
to look
faint
him in the
ripples
eye.
in it.
Cesare
Ordinary
was very
people might
clear
have
about
already
his
lost
personal and
themselves in
private
the
grudges.
gentleness of Black Song
He
in
looked at
Pagoda
Rias
City,
with a stern
leading
gaze.
a drunken life in
Rias,
the countryside.
this is all you're doing.
As long as we
I'm sorry,
resolve our
brother.
relationship
This
as
is all my
sisters,
fault.
I will be
If
yours
I had
from
let
now
Gasper
on.
manage me,
Her
this
fragrant
wouldn't have
sandalwood
happened.
mouth gently
Rias's
opened,
expression
and
was
Deshang
complicated
Heij
as
exhaled a
bitterness lingered
fragrant
in her
scent.
heart.
She
did
who
not
was
feel
already
good.
extraordinarily
She had chosen
charming,
to escape
purposely
when faced with
revealed her
setbacks and
mature figure,
difficulties, making
and now
people's
she had
blood
only
boil.
herself to blame
They
for
couldn't
this.
help but want to agree
This is
to
not
her
a big
conditions.
problem. We just
Taking
need
a
to
glance
find
at Veni
Gasper.
Lana, who was
Dustless
sleeping
stretched
soundly,
and said as
touching
if it was
Heij
as
chuckled
easy
and
as
said,
eating and drinking.
I can do what she did
This
with
was a
you
simple
too.
answer, but
Actually,
everyone
it's
knew
very
how
difficult
simple
it was.
You still have
It
the
was
initiative.
easier said than done
Dustless
to find
was not
Rias's
tempted.
minion, Gasper. It may sound simple,
He
but
passed the
doing it
ball
was
to
as
Deshang
difficult
Heij,
as ascending to the
indicating
heavens.
for him to settle it
Easy
himself.
for you to say.
You just
Since you
explain
are
the
so
method.
capable, do it
It's actually
yourself.
very simple.
White Dragon
As long
Emperor
as you
Wally,
become
who was
Rias's
not on good
dependent
terms
like
with
Kitten,
Dustless,
all
said.
these problems
He
will
was
be
wary
solved.
of Dustless,
There
but
won't
that
be
did
any
not mean he was
confrontational
afraid.
relationship
He
between
would
the
not
two
be
of you
afraid
due
of
to different
anyone, not
factions.
even the Great
And
Red.
you can be together
The real
every
Red
day.
Dragon Emperor, let
Dustless
alone chuckled
Dustless.
and leaned against the wall peacefully.
Chapter
He looked calm and
1336.
composed, and he was not
Staring
afraid
at
of her
White
rejection
Dragon
at
Emperor
all.
Wally with
You
interest.
want to poach Wally?
Dustless secretly
Narrowing her
despised him.
eyes,
In
Deshang
fact,
Heij
the sudden
suddenly
attack
understood.
this time was
If she
inextricably
jumped ship
linked
to
to
Rias's
his
side,
his boring
there was indeed
provocation
no
was
one who could
probably
stop
to
her
force
from meeting
Dustless
Kitten.
into a trap.
Poach? Fine,
Aren't
I'll
these
see what
words
tricks
too
you have up
unpleasant
your
to hear?
sleeve.
I'll
I'm
play
guiding
you
you
to
onto
death.
the right path.
Facing
Do you
White
think that
Dragon
I'm not
Emperor
as good
Wally's
as that arrogant
provocation,
lizard kid?
Dustless chose to
When
fight back.
Dustless mentioned himself,
He opened
was
the
in
window
high spirits,
resolutely,
but when he
and a
talked about
majestic
Wally,
energy
his
wave
face
surged
was
in
full
his
of
body
sneers.
as if he was about to
He
fly
mercilessly
out.
retaliated.
Dustless, don't be fooled.
His vision is too
This
narrow.
guy is doing it on
Do you
purpose.
think he can defeat the Great
Rias
Red
stared
with his
at
strength?
White Dragon Emperor
That kid
Wally
always
angrily,
gives me the
and her
feeling that
tone
he
was
hasn't
filled
even
with
graduated
hostility.
from kindergarten.
She said sharply,
You're
"Fallen
insulting my
angels
boss
are not
in front
good
of
people
me.
either.
Is this really okay?"
Hearing that,
Deshang
Heij
frowned and
asked
looked at Rias, who
speechlessly.
was on top of her
Dustless
head.
really did not
His
treat
lips
her as an
moved.
outsider at all.
The first two times
He
were
completely
indeed the
treated her as one of
responsibility of
his
the
own.
fallen angels.
This is the
To
truth.
make up for my
Dustless
sins,
reiterated,
I'm willing to help you
not
this
to
time.
mention that Lizard Kid is
This
my
kid
enemy.
still has a conscience.
Every man for
Dustless
himself.
also stopped
After I
complaining
kill
about
Wally
a
in the future,
Monoshima
you'll
sneak
still
attack.
have to find another place.
He knew that although
It's not
Asasho's
hard to
mouth
find a
was
suitable
sometimes
home now.
vicious and his
Of course, if
personality
you want
was
to
a
think
little
of it as
perfunctory,
poaching Wally, that's
sometimes
fine
he
too.
was unbelievably
Dustless
reliable.
stared at Deshang Heij's
You
little
want to deal
face
with
and
so
said,
many mages alone?
"Give me time to think about
Looking
it."
at the mages who
Deshang
covered the
Heij
entire
lowered her
sky
head and
outside
fell
the
into a
window,
dilemma.
Sadix
She was
frowned with a
tempted by
strange look in
Dustless's
his eyes.
suggestion.
No matter
Listening
how
to
many
Dustless's
Dustless's
tone,
it will
she
never
smelled a
change
trace
anything.
of cold, murderous
Dustless said
intent.
calmly.
If Wally
He did
really
not
died
care
in the
about the
future,
mages
she
in
had
the
to
sky
find
at
a
all.
suitable home.
The
Dustless
higher you
in
stand,
front
the
of her
worse
was
you fall.
indeed not bad.
I hope you don't fall
He
to your
completely
death later.
defeated White Dragon
If you do,
King
I
Wally
won't
in
save
all
you.
aspects.
White Dragon
Give me
Emperor
7
Wally
days
said
to
in a
think about
strange
it.
tone, mocking
Taking a
Dustless.
deep breath,
Deshang Heij chose to
hearing
leave
that,
for a while.
Dustless laughed
Her
and said
mind
in
was in a
disdain,
mess right now.
"If there is someone
She
in
could
this
not
world
think
who can make
steadily
me
and
fall
was
to my
unable to
death,
concentrate.
I'm sure that person
No
is
problem.
definitely not you."
Dustless slightly nodded
White
and
Dragon
immediately
Emperor
continued.
Wally's mouth
Remember,
twitched,
if you
and he
stand
could
on
only
Wally's
retract
side,
his anger.
you can forget about
Anyway,
seeing
the plan
Kitten
has
in your
begun.
life.
Wait
You should
for
know
me
my
to
strength.
activate
It's
Tyrant
easy to
Dragon
stop
mode.
the two of you from
We'll
seeing
see.
each other.
Wally held back.
He already
Hearing
knew about
this,
this,
and
and
even
the
Heij's
mastermind
hard-won
behind
good
it
impression
knew.
of Dustless
The
instantly
mastermind was the
disappeared.
old Demon King's
This guy
faction.
relied on his strength
Whoosh,
to be
whoosh,
so
whoosh.
despicable and
Dustless's
ruthless.
appearance
He
attracted
did not
a rain
have the
of
style
bullets.
of a strong
The
person
rays
at
of
all.
light that filled the
Don't
sky
stare at
merged
me like
into a
you want
large
to eat
area,
me. You should
transforming
understand
into a
that this is the
multicolored
territory
sky
of
that
the
blasted
Gimli
over.
family. I
Petty
can
tricks.
completely treat you as an
Dustless
enemy
let
and
out a
take you as
soft
my
sigh
own.
as boundless
You're still a
energy
virgin right
fluctuations
now.
erupted
You have
from
to
his
thank
body.
me for my kindness.
His left eye twisted, and the black pupil was
Dustless
replaced by
proudly
a purple
revealed
one.
an expression that
Ripples
said,
spread out,
"You have
and
to
9
thank
black
me."
magatama
So
hung
shameless.
Wherever Dustless was
eyes
defeated
swept,
and left,
the void would ripple.
she was really afraid
and the
that
magicians would
Dustless would
collapse
force
and
her to
squat
stay
on the ground, trembling.
What kind of eyes are those?
The appearance of the Rinnegan
Chapter
shocked
1352.
everyone. The moment the
After
strange
witnessing
eyes
Black
appeared,
Song of Tower
Dustless's
City turned into a
temperament
black
also
wind
changed.
and disappeared.
A man with a
Silver
cheeky
returned to
smile
hug
had suddenly
Vainilana
turned
and
into a
fell
god
asleep
who viewed
peacefully.
all living things
The
as
next
grass.
morning, the sky was turning
Perhaps
bright.
it was as he said that
Vainilana,
day,
who woke
seeming
up
to have
first,
thought of something,
took a deep
Asashel
look at
said,
Dustless before
"He's not
leaving
fighting
quietly.
at all, he's just
As for
playing
when
a boring
Dustless
game with
attacked,
Wally.
it was already
Damn
late
bastard,
in the morning.
what the hell is going
Time
on
was
with
tight,
those eyes?
and the dependence of the
Artifact?
supernatural research
But why haven't I
department
heard
were
of
all
those strange
undergoing
eyes
intense
before?
training.
White
Only
Dragon
Dustless
Emperor
was
walking
walking
around
around
unwillingly.
He
Affected
affected
by
by
Dustless's
Drain and no one could train
temperament,
him.
he also
Bored,
felt as
he
humble as
strolled
an
around
ant.
the Gemengli
He could only
family's
look down
territory
at
alone
Dustless
to
from
kill
this
time.
angle.
It
There
seems
was no
to be the
comparison
same as
between
between
the
the
two
two
sides
sides
at all.
There's nothing special
Buzz,
about
buzz. Under everyone's surprised gaze, strolled around, a large amount of high-density energy gathered. He realized that it was the same as human society. Was like a volcanic crater. There were all kinds of supermarkets and peddlers selling vegetables and fruits. His body constantly emitted energy. The only difference between them and humans was that they were all naked eyes spurted out from his body, crushing the surrounding sky. Suddenly there were messy magicians who were unlucky enough to touch them raised his head instinctively, and their whole body turned into a pool of mud. A ferocious force came from the front, and Dustless, who was caught off guard, Dustless's voice falling. A wisp of shocking energy fluctuation erupted from his body and instantly swept through the heavens and the earth. It hurt a little. Boom, boom, boom. Just as he was about to teach the within a radius of tens of kilometers was all detonated by Dustless. Grabbed him, instantly killing all living things within the range. A pleasant and crisp voice asked. The sky that was originally occupied by the magicians was instantly restored. Dustless complained with a dark expression. In one move. He was knocked down by someone for no reason due to his carelessness, and only the sound of sobbing could be heard. Unable to restrain his anger, to the window, he raised his head and roared angrily out of humiliation. Everyone's mouth was wide open. The words at the tip of Wu Chen's tongue so many of them were wiped out in one go. What entered his sight was a silver-haired girl with an extraordinary raging energy wave just now. Her watery eyes were moving. That if someone wanted to kill her face was full of disappeared along with this school. Silver hair drooped down on Dustless's head. What a terrifying attack! 3,000 strands of willow hair were filled with this elegant fragrance. The fallen angels, very pleasant to the smell. And angels were all. The young girl's skin was fair and beautiful. They pointed at Dustless, whose features were as beautiful as two different expressions of fear and panic on their faces, and her delicate red lips were like a blooming poppy flower. White Dragon Emperor Wally was dumbfounded when he saw this. The young girl's face was filled with nervousness as she nervously looked at Dustless. He thought that Dustless was just trying to impress the crowd, she let out a sigh of relief. But he did not expect that he could really do it. It seems like he's not injured. Moreover, it was done otherwise there would be another expense. Wally could not help but ask himself, because the two of them were too close. Such an exaggerated attack. Could still clearly smell the faint fragrance beyond his understanding. It lingered in his mouth and nose for a long time, which was as calm as the wind and clouds. It was staring at the nervous girl who grabbed him. Dustless felt a sense of familiarity. Black shadows. Dustless's thin figure was particularly eye-catching. She was somewhat similar to a certain figure in his mind, the center of attention. So he asked tentatively, Latvias. The girl was obviously 1337. She looked at Dustless in surprise. Everyone present had a clear understanding of Dustless. It really is her. It shouldn't be a problem for him to surpass me. He did not expect to destroying Rhea's and Phoenix's marriage and betrothing her to Dustless was the right choice, which indirectly means Demon King that the main god let out a hearty smile. Is also here. He was quite happy with his brilliant to form an alliance. Of course, maybe there is a big problem with the changes in his wife, Gilifia. That god called Loki seems to be Odin's on a constipated expression. Staring at Latvias' perfect so powerful. Dustless guessed in his delicate face was burning. Latvias looking at the majestic young man in the sky who seemed to be able to kill anything. Have you seen an old man with white hair and a white beard? Spread in her heart. Old man? After all, she had a special relationship with Dustless. Wu Che replied without hesitation. They had even had sex before. Are you talking about the old man who stares at Rhea stood side by side? I saw him just now on Dustless, who was going on a killing spree. Wretched. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. Junai's eyes were filled with faint starlight, and her face turned red. Since ancient times, she did not doubt Dustless's words. That was an unchanging law. God Odin's personality was so perverted for a few days. The gods of the Norse mythological system are going to say with a dazed expression. Latvias rubbed her temples tiredly and said speechlessly. I know you too well, Junai. He was more like a lecherous old man than a main god. Rhea put her hands on her hips and rejected Junai's harsh request. My name is Latvias. You arrogant brat. Please take care of me in the future. Demon King Seraphil snorted. Latvias' face bloomed with a gentle smile as she extended her hand and said very politely. Her delicate and perfect face had a complicated and extended his right arm to shake her hand. She and Gilifia had been forced to have sex by Dustless. My name is Dustless, the husband of the Gimli family. Maybe it's not a bad idea to have him as a backer. I'm very familiar with this place. Life was like rape. Why don't I take you to that wretched old man? Since there was no way to resist, one could only enjoy it silently. As a Demon King, Latvias smiled naturally understood such a simple on her forehead. All in all, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Thoughts at the moment. Dustless took even the initiative. Archangel Michael had a faint smile anyway, on his face. He was bored now, so it was better to find a beautiful woman to relieve his Wisteria Arena. It was much better than facing a group of men. In the future, they could always have Gimli family. What does he have to do with this magic Sazek? Dustless naturally did not understand their thoughts. Eyes flashed and she guessed the identity of Black Vortex in front of him. Then she frowned slightly, feeling that the name Dustless was familiar. Spread out. And Dustless sister felt that one of them was unusual. His body glowed with faint photons and turned into a flash of identity with a smile. In a mysterious unknown space, that wretched old man, a young girl wearing a gothic lowly dress sat in the air, closing his eyes, swinging her legs in boredom. Observation, her jade-like hand was holding her chin, and he concentrated on searching for the traces of Odin. She looked very bored. After a while, he opened his deep eyes with a confident look on his face. A large amount of light apparently he noticed the existence of Odin. It was incomparably bright. He simply took Latvias' The girl also turned her head from her daze, suddenly turned red, and she gave up after struggling for a while. Brat, your strength is not bad. I only released a little of my power,
Dustless was
and you
also
were able
good,
to discover
and he
my
did not
existence.
seem like the kind of
Your
person
strength
who had
is
a
not
dirty
bad,
mind.
and I am very satisfied. Therefore, I said that you are not inferior to me. The
Chapter
adorable girl said
1353.
seriously. The reason why Latvia did not resist Dustless was not only because of his good influence, but also because of the compressed into a human figure. After all, finally, here to form an alliance, into a handsome young man with eyes as bright as the stars. With Dustless. Speaking of which, aren't you curious about my identity? Aren't you afraid that I looked at the girl in front of him?
me?
Dustless suddenly felt that
rolled
she
his
was
eyes
familiar,
and teased,
but he was
"If
sure
that's
that
the
he had
case,
never
I'll
seen her
definitely
before,
accept it with
and there was
pride."
no impression of her. The
Latvia's
girl was wearing a
white face
gothic
instantly
lowly
turned
dress,
red,
and her
and her
dark angry
ink-like
look
hair
was
was
very
dancing
cute
in the
and
wind.
playful. Her skin was white and beautiful. You should be the bodyguard of the Norse god Odin, dazzling as the bright moon. The real purpose of coming to the underworld this time is to form an alliance with the fallen angels, the demons, thought about it and realized that he still didn't know her, should be a threat to the Norse mythological vague outline in his mind. Dustless spoke
He had to
frankly.
ask tentatively,
The existence of
infinite dragon
Calamity
god Orpheus
was a threat to the entire
me?
world. The girl's
Latvia's
pupils
white
splashed
chin
with
lightly
faint
nodded,
ripples,
and then
her
she could
tone
not
was
help
somewhat
but
asked
surprised.
curiously, "I don't know,
Since you
I've
know
heard
my
of your
identity,
legend. You still
Dustless
dare to say
replied
that
truthfully.
What you said just now might
people
ruin
in
our
the world who
relationship.
had seen the
Is
infinite
that a
dragon
serious
god
crime?"
Orpheus?
But there were
After
many
saying
people who had
that,
heard of his
Latvia
legend,
looked at
and
Dustless
with
with
her
her
hands
hands
on her hips. You've
like
heard
a
of my
tiger
legend?
eyeing its prey.
That's even better.
Serious crime?
Be my subordinate.
What does that have to do
immediately,
with me?
And I'll give you power
Dustless
to help
curled
me
his
defeat
lips
that
to
evil
express his
dragon that's
confusion,
disturbing my
and then
peace.
said bluntly,
When the word
"Destroy it
evil
if you
dragon
want.
was mentioned,
What does it have
the
to do
infinite
with
dragon
me?
god
Even if
Orpheus
this world
naturally
is
dull
destroyed
face
by
had a rare
calamity,
touch of emotion.
it has nothing to
Evil
do with
dragon?
me."
Hearing
Dustless's
this,
expression
Dustless
was normal,
speechless,
and he
but
really
he
felt
understood
that this
what
group of
Orpheus
people
was
was
talking
boring
about.
enough. They could
He
live their
immediately
own
shook
lives,
his head
and
and
the
said,
grand script
"I'm
of the
sorry,
Savior
I'm
was
not
really
interested
not suitable
now,
for him.
and I don't have the
Even
extra
if the
time to
world
be
is
your
destroyed,
subordinate.
you will be finished."
Although I'm very curious about the
Latvia said
great red,
seriously,
real red
looking at
dragon god
Dustless with a
emperor.
hopeless
It's
expression.
impossible for you to
That's
use me to
simple.
fight against the
Upon
great
hearing
red.
this, Dustless'
Orpheus
soul
blinked
smiled
and seemed to be
nonchalantly and
confused.
said, "I will
She
get
looked
rid
at
of them
Dustless
before
in
they
confusion
destroy me."
and said,
Dustless had
you
never
my
thought
power,
of becoming
and you're
enemies
helping
with
me
the
to
group
fight
of
against that
misfortune.
evil dragon.
But if they didn't
Is
know
there
what was
anything
good
wrong
for
with
them,
that?
such as White Dragon
Of
Emperor
course not.
Wally, who took
Firstly,
the
I
initiative
don't
to
need
come
your
to him,
power.
Dustless
Secondly,
wouldn't be
I'm
polite.
not your subordinate,
Dustless
and
would
there's no
generously
need for
send
me to
his
fight
enemies
against
to
the
their
great
deaths
red,
if they took
real
the
red
initiative
dragon
to send
god
them to
emperor,
their deaths.
according to your
By the
orders.
way, are you
That's
sure
your
you can
personal
find Sir
grudge.
Odin? The
Rose
infinite
Vyas
dragon god
questioned.
Orpheus nodded
She felt
as
that
if she
Dustless's
understood.
sloppy
It
behavior
was
was a
difficult
little
for her
strange.
to understand because
Odin
she didn't
hasn't
know
been
much
found
about
yet,
the world.
but
There is a group
goodbye.
of people who came
Seeing
to trouble
Orpheus
us.
lowering her head
Observation
and thinking,
hockey
Dustless
expanded,
was about to
and
leave when a
Dustless
clear
found a
voice
large
stopped
number
him.
of killers
"No, you
ambushed
have
on
to help
both
me
sides
defeat
of
the
the
great
street.
red."
Orpheus
Hearing this,
floated in
Latvia
front of
frowned
Dustless like
slightly
a
and
ghost,
looked at Dustless
and then
in
simply
confusion.
snapped her fingers,
Just as she was
sealing
about
the
to ask
space
him what
exit.
happened,
This
countless
fellow,
black
seeing
shadows
this,
suddenly
Dustless
attacked and
frowned
surrounded
even
the
more.
two of them.
If he didn't
"You
know
sure have a
Orpheus
lot of
well,
enemies,"
he would have thought
Latvia
that she
said
was
with a
deliberately
frown, her
looking for
tone
trouble.
turning cold.
"I think you are mistaken." Chapter 1338. This group of people is
Dustless
coming
looked
for
at
you.
this naive and
Dustless
adorable young
glanced at
lady.
Lathwise gently
If anyone
and said
else
softly,
dared to do this,
as long
they
as you
might have
die,
already been
I don't
torn
think
into
the
pieces
alliance
by
of
the
several
raging
forces
Dustless.
will be so smooth.
But the infinite
and there is
dragon
even a
god
possibility
Orpheus was
that
an
they will
exception.
part ways. For some
Am I
reason,
that important?
Dustless could not
I'm
bring
just an
himself to kill her when he saw her
bodyguard.
innocent and adorable
Lathwise was
face.
speechless and
At
felt
the end
that
of the day,
Dustless
you
was
are just a
shirking his
chess piece being
responsibility.
used by others.
Don't belittle
You
yourself.
are just an innocent
You've been
young
Odin's
lady who does
bodyguard
not
for so
understand
many
the ways
years,
of the
and your
world.
status isn't low.
Looking
If
directly
you were
at the
killed for no
adorable
reason,
face
that
of the
old
infinite
man Odin
dragon
would
would definitely
definitely
get
get
angry. Dustless
And this
spoke
is the
frankly.
territory of the
In
Gimli
reality,
family.
with your strength,
When the
you
time
don't even
comes,
need to borrow
a
the
battle will
strength
be
of others.
unavoidable.
You can fight
Wuxia
to and calm with the
Chronicles.
great red. His
Dustless
analysis
looked
was
well-grounded,
meaningfully at the
and no
infinite
one could
dragon
find a
god
reason to
Orpheus.
refute it.
Without a doubt, the
TSK.
infinite dragon
But
god
this group of
Orpheus
people
was
who
chased
came to
out of the
sneak attack
dimensional
me
crevice,
forgot a major
and
problem.
the instigator was the
Immediately
great red.
afterward,
But did
Dustless
this mean that
continued to
Orpheus
add,
was not a
"It's
match
okay
for the
to
great
attack
red?
you, but they
It was
dare
a
to
big
attack me.
mistake.
They are bold."
If the two dragon
After
gods
saying
fought,
that,
the entire world
Dustless
would
revealed
collapse.
a terrifying
Perhaps it
demonic
was because
smile.
Orpheus realized
Like a
the
hunter lurking
seriousness
in the
of this
wilderness,
problem that she
his
left the
eyes shot
dimensional
out an
crevice.
oily green light
No.
that could devour
Orpheus'
people.
calm eyes showed a rare
Strange, why do I
fluctuation
feel
of
that this guy
emotions
is
and a hint
familiar,
of
but
worry.
I can't remember
She said,
specifically.
"You are right.
Lathwise
If I
stomped
fight
her
with her
feet
at all
angrily,
costs,
forests, but Dustless had already launched a fatal attack.
However,
my hometown and this world will
majestic,
both collapse.
insubstantial energy
That would be too
ripple
much of a
erupted
loss.
from Dustless's body
I
and
couldn't
spread
tell that you were
hundreds of
quite
meters
smart.
away in the blink
You
of an
know
eye.
the consequences
Those
of
who
doing
came
this.
into contact with the
Dustless
energy
looked
ripple
at Orpheus in
frothed at the
surprise.
mouth.
So
And
you
in the
chose
sky,
someone like
a
Wally
huge
to work
rift had
with?
been torn open.
Dustless asked curiously.
What is this feeling?
Then he sighed.
Luisiwi's
Investing
eyes
in
were filled
Wally
with
is
panic
not
as
as
she
good
looked
as
at
investing
Dustless
in
in
Wally.
disbelief.
You are
Even
right.
though the
I
airwave
used to
wasn't
think so too.
deliberately released to
I planned to
target her,
gather the
it
two
was still
heavenly
impressive.
dragons under my
It
command
was
and
as though
train
she
them
had
to a certain
encountered her
level.
natural
They
enemy,
will definitely
and her
become good
entire body
helpers.
was trembling
But this was
slightly.
all in the past.
Luisiwi even
Orpheus
felt that
tapped
with
her
just a
chin
thought
lightly.
from Dustless,
Then
she
she
would be
looked at
crushed to
Dustless
pieces.
with sparkling eyes.
Who are
I
you?
changed my mind.
Suppressing the
Someone
shock
like
in
you
her
can
heart,
totally
Lothwise
replace the
asked.
two of them. The black-clothed people surrounding them were staggered and
killed,
almost fell down, all of them frothing at
He
the
looked
mouth
at
and
Orpheus
rolling
with
their
disgust
eyes.
and couldn't help
My
but
name
feel
is Dustless,
speechless.
I've told you before.
Although this little lowly
Dustless
is simple,
crossed
she's
his
not
arms and
stupid.
said casually,
She's very shrewd
Suddenly,
in some
he
things.
felt an
She
unusual
actually
energy
knows how to use me
fluctuation
as a
in the
tool.
sky. Compared to
Is the main
Issei
culprit
and
of
White
the
Dragon
sneak
Emperor
attack here?
Wally,
Quietly
Dustless's
staring
potential
at the
was more than
mysterious
just a
magic
little bit
circle
higher.
in the void.
Even if they were
Dustless
given
smelled
100
an
years,
unusual
it would be
energy
difficult for
fluctuation.
them to catch up with
Dustless.
Dustless's shadow.
All right, I remember now.
No matter what, the
I don't
Dustless
want to
who
work
killed
with
the
anyone
fallen
for the
angel
time
cadre
being.
and almost
As
killed
for
the
the
White
Great
Dragon
Red,
Emperor Wally
a
in an
huge
instant.
red monster appeared in his
Lothwise rubbed
mind.
her eyes and
Dustless
suddenly
did not
realized
think
that
that
she
he
had
was a
heard the
dragon.
legend of
I
Dustless's
can easily
abnormal
deal with
power.
it single-handedly.
After
so
hearing
there's
the
no
rumors
need
of
for us to work
Dustless's
together at all.
heaven-defying strength,
Dustless answered
Lothwise
frankly
also
as he
became
looked
a
into
fan
the
of
eyes of the
Dustless.
infinite dragon god Orpheus.
No. The infinite dragon god Orpheus
1354.
rejected Dustless with an
Lesbius was
adorable
extremely
face.
excited.
Then he
Her
continued
eyes
to act
sparkled with
shamelessly
starlight
as
as
she looked at Dustless
"If you don't
with 2
cooperate
stars
with
in
me,
her
I
eyes.
won't let you go.
This woman has
I
changed
believe
so
you.
much.
Then it seems
Women
that
are
there's
indeed
even
fickle
less need
creatures.
for us to work together.
Dustless felt
Dustless
uncomfortable under
interrupted
this
Orpheus.
inexplicable gaze.
He
For
looked at the
some
dark
reason,
void
he
in
felt
front
as
of
though
him
Lothwile
indifferently
was
and
going to
shouted,
swallow him.
"God's might."
He had to change the topic.
The
I think
void
he's the
suddenly
culprit who
distorted
attacked us just
violently
now.
and a mysterious
Dustless
vortex
looked at the
appeared.
distant sky.
Then,
The
Dustless
magic circle there
activated
was
his
clearly
eye power
visible.
and tore apart
This
the
magic
sealed key of the
circle.
black void.
I don't know much about
This
magic,
kind of thing is
but
just
I'm
a
sure
small
that the person
problem
who
for me.
attacked us is
Glancing
definitely
at
not
Orpheus,
ordinary.
Dustless's body
emitted
emitted
a
with
warm
great
glow.
interest. He
Crack,
turned into a
crack,
beam of light
crack.
and disappeared.
At the same time,
his
the
speed
sky
was so
exploded
fast
with
that
a
even
crisp
Orpheus
sound like
couldn't
a
keep
mirror.
up with him.
Countless
Only
cracks
Orpheus
appeared
and
in the
Dustless
boundless
were left
void,
in the space of dead
crisscrossing like a
silence.
spider web.
Or rather, it was a short
Buzz,
sentence.
buzz.
We'll meet
Majestic
again if fate
magic
allows
waves
it.
spread out,
Orpheus'
and the
eyes,
entire
which
sky
were as
shook
clear as
violently.
agate,
It
looked
seemed
at
like it
Dustless,
could not
who
hold on
disappeared
any
in the
longer.
blink of an eye.
Not bad.
The thought of dragging
After
him
a
into
few
the
rough
pit didn't
glances,
fade away.
Dustless
Instead,
estimated
it became
the
stronger
approximate
and
strength
stronger.
of the intruder.
We'll meet again
Based
soon.
on the energy
At
waves
that
in this
time,
world,
you won't
it
be
was
able to
probably
escape
someone
from
on
my
the level
palm.
of a god.
Orpheus
Just
repeated
not
his
bad.
words a few times,
Los
and
Vias,
his
who was
gem-like
beside
eyes
him,
shone
smiled
brightly.
bitterly.
His tone
Dustless
sounded
was very
bold,
confident,
but this unusual
giving people
energy
the
wave
illusion
made
that
her
he had
shudder.
Wuxia under
Her
control.
body was about to be
Outside,
crushed.
above the
In
Carriage
other
King
words,
Academy,
it was like the absolute
dimension was
suppression of a
distorted,
higher
and
life form
countless
over a lower
vortexes
life
were
form.
clearly visible.
It was full of disdain.
A large number of sorcerers poured
This
out
god
of
is
them and
obviously
attacked
not a
the
good
enchantment
person.
of the Carriage
He only
King
knows
Academy.
how to bully the weak and
It's
fear the
endless.
strong. If we don't find
The
the kid
surface
named
of
Gasper,
Dustless'
these
body
guys
emitted
can't
a
be
faint
killed.
golden luster that
Dustless
enveloped
frowned.
Lascivious.
At the same time,
Only then
his
did her
observation
rapid breathing
hockey spread out
stabilize.
again and swept
Looking
between
closely,
heaven and
she was
earth.
already sweating
Found him.
profusely, and
After
her
a few
sweat had
seconds,
soaked her clothes.
Dustless suddenly opened
Due
his
to the
eyes
water,
and looked across
certain
the layers
parts
of
of
Lasvia's
space and
body
saw
could be
Gasper, who
vaguely
was
seen
caught.
by the sharp-eyed Dustless.
Dustless suddenly turned into a golden
swallowed
light and
his
rushed
saliva
out.
and secretly
He was
gave her a
durable,
thumbs
but
up.
other people
Rose
in the
Vase
supernatural
figure was
research
definitely
department were
top-notch.
exceptions.
Sorry,
They were
I've
far
dragged
less
you down.
thick-skinned than Dustless.
At the same time,
That
she
eye looks
gazed
good.
deeply at the
The
familiar
ability to stop
magic
time
array.
and space is
She
rare.
could already vaguely
Entering a
guess who it
special
was that had
space,
arrived.
Dustless saw
Do you
a
know
blonde
that
boy
idiot
in
god?
women's clothes.
He really has no
He was
taste.
bound to a glowing
Noticing
magic circle.
Lasvia's strange
It seemed that
expression,
the strange
Dustless
magic
was using this to
unrestrained
take
words
advantage of
resounded
Gasper.
throughout the world.
There's an
Idiot,
intruder,
don't
don't you
kill
know
him.
who that is?
The few magicians who
god, a
reacted
real god.
exclaimed in surprise.
The corner of
Their
Lothwai's
words
mouth
revealed
twitched.
deep surprise.
She quickly covered
Dustless being
Dustless's
able to
mouth
invade
and
this
pressed him
place
into
was
her
not
arms.
inferior to them.
At the same
They
time,
were all
she
figures
shouted
at
at
the
the
same
magic
level as
circle
the
in the
Demon
sky.
King.
Lord
At the
Loki,
same
this
time,
child
they didn't
is not
forget to
sensible.
rush over fearlessly.
Please forgive him. Silver
Bang,
Wheel
bang, bang.
reincarnation
The
explosion.
horizon
The
completely
sharpness of the
exploded.
Tensigan
A rather
appeared.
handsome young man
Dustless
stood there
waved
with
his
his hands
hand and a
behind
fierce
his back.
chakra storm appeared.
His expression was
The
dark
attacking
and
sorcerers
wild,
were
and in his
instantly
eyes,
killed.
everyone
Their
was like
bodies were
ants that
torn
couldn't
apart
even
by the
withstand
storm,
a
and
single
all the
blow.
sorcerers were
This
killed.
guy,
This annoying
at
long
the same
out
time,
face is
it
really
meant that
annoying.
everything was about
Dustless's
to end.
eyes flashed with anger. Chapter 1339.
He then enjoyed
Due
lying
to the
in
sheer
Los
number of
Vias'
mages
arms,
in the Cold King
enjoying her
Academy,
intoxicating
it was
body
almost
fragrance
impossible
and
to
the
kill
two
them
meaty
all.
things on his head.
The battle quickly
Umph.
fell into a
The
stalemate.
evil god Loki
The three
first
forces
snorted
felt
coldly
helpless.
and glanced glanced at
They
Dustless
could only
with
set up a
murderous
defensive
eyes.
barrier and
Then he
stay
smiled.
inside for the time being.
He noticed that there was
something
not
wrong
the
with that
slightest
guy?
fluctuation on
Hudo
him,
Issei
so
said
he deliberately
impatiently.
treated him as
Even
a
though
pawn
the
that
entire
wasn't worth
Cult King
mentioning.
Academy was
He's just
surrounded
a
by
piece
a
of
large
trash.
barrier,
I
he
won't
was
bother
still
with
very
him, but
upset.
Loki's
Being
lips
in the
curled
same
into a
space as
ferocious
White Dragon
smile.
Emperor Wally,
He said
Hudo
directly,
Issei
"My
felt
pet
like
is
he had
hungry.
met his natural
I'll
enemy.
have to trouble you
It was
two
as
to
if
fill
he
his
could lose
stomach.
his life in the
This
next
time
second.
I'll let bygones
No
be
matter who it
bygones."
was, they would feel
Loki waved his
uncomfortable,
hand and
especially
looked
when they were
magnanimous.
surrounded in this
However,
space.
his words
he might
made
lose his
Loki's
life at any
feel as
moment.
if she had fallen
These
into an
people
ice
are not
cave.
simple.
Lord
White
Loki,
Dragon
what you're
Emperor
doing is
Wally
against.
glanced at the
Don't
leaders of
waste
the
your
three
breath.
forces silently.
He's determined to kill
He
the two
frowned
of
a few
us.
times and
This
looked a
will
little
cause a
serious.
rift between the two
Archangel
sides.
Michael, when that happens, the plan to form an alliance were all releasing their magic power to set up a large barrier to protect the Cult
He looked
King
at
Academy.
Loki, who was
We
standing
have
in
to
the
fight
void,
back, and a strange
It's
look
too passive
flashed in
to
his
just
eyes.
wait like this. Looking at the increasing number of mages in the sky, a hysterical roar finally lost his cool. Violent Archangel Michael and the others nodded silently. The surrounding buildings were destroyed, but there's nothing we can do about it. The streets that were filled with people turned into ruins in the blink of an eye. This academy takes up a lot of space. Oh no, what's the name of this wolf? Only the four of us can maintain this barrier to protect it innocently. If one of us is missing, you're not doing this on purpose. What happens if one of us is missing? That wolf's name is Fenrir. The ghostly voice resounded behind him. Pinched Dustless's face turned around and retaliated with a ferocious punch. Bam, bam, bam. Caught off guard, wolf roared angrily at the sky. His magic power was also as a huge ripple spread across the entire sky. Boom, boom, it was as if even the mages were like stray cats that smelled blood. Seeing this, they kept attacking the gap, and the gap on the barrier was getting bigger and bigger. The world has changed. It's just a mere beast, the others glared at White Dragon Emperor Wally with unfriendly looks. As expected, the world is deteriorating day by day. Don't you understand? Let's retreat quickly. Emperor Wally said casually. The two of us together are no match for it. At the same time, we must not enter the tentacle state of the divine artifact. At this point, Los Vias had also given up on the idea that you guys are talking about. Fenrir was already even one of the participants and one of the evil god Loki joined in. The two of them had during that time, and my other accomplice hasn't appeared yet. Do you think the two of us can outrun these two crazy gods? White Dragon Emperor Wally looked at the sky. Dustless stood up and stretched. His face filled with confusion. His eyes were filled with a cold light. Archangel, then what do you plan to do? Expressions changed as they waited for Wally's side. At this moment, they could only maintain the barrier and couldn't leave. It's very simple. I'll use my fist like I'm getting old. Whose fist is stronger. Sashel, who had crawled out of the ruins, was covered in snow. It was not hard to see how painful Wally's punch was. As expected, words caused the entire sky to become solemn. Seeing this, including Loki, who was standing in the void with his hands behind his back. He was the governor of the fallen angels. He looked at Dustless's confident little face as if he was looking at a ghost. I want to ask you a question. That extremely convincing and arrogant speech was definitely not something he said casually to fool people. My deputy chief inspector found an organization hidden in the three major forces. Was the first to question. Calamity Mass. At the same time, she used all her organization as the infinite dragon god Orpheus. What is the connection between the people who attacked us and it was difficult Calamity Mass? Ow, 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 ow. The infinite dragon god was furious. The hair on its body was like a taboo, and it bared its teeth at Dustless. Had a drastic change in expression. There was even saliva dripping from the corner of its mouth. Even someone as strong as ignorant and arrogant human go to hell. The infinite dragon god Orpheus, and with a wave of her hand, Fenrir jumped up. Turned not just a huge monster and pounced down. The people who attacked you this time belonged to the faction of the old demon to swallow Dustless. Orpheus himself also participated. Want to form an alliance? That guy might be dead already. Did I allow? White Dragon Emperor Wally laughed eerily. His tone was filled with endless arrogance. The person he was talking about was naturally Dustless. Ow, ow, ow. Fenrir, as for why I participated, was about to swallow with a teasing look in his eyes into its mouth. Wally flapped his wings. I can't believe I'm going to die so inexplicably. Damn it! I still don't have a boyfriend. God is really bad to me. These words were like a level 10 storm, on the ground in Wally's brand new attitude made everyone dizzy. Their brains stopped working for a moment. No matter how I die, I can't be swallowed by a hungry wolf. Wally Lucifer also indirectly meant that he inherited the Demon King's bloodline and could be regarded as part of the old Demon King's faction. When Fenrir's ferocious and smelly the strongest were about to swallow White Dragon Emperor, a powerful attack from the dark clouds said in a heavy tone, full of worries about the future. Dustless's right eye changed dramatically. The eyeball was like a flower. White Dragon Emperor Wally's expression was arrogant. Dustless did not hesitate he had the bloodline of the Demon King and one of the strongest that was enough to shake the world rose from Dustless's palm. He indeed had the capital to be arrogant. As long as this barrier can't hold, you guys will be finished sooner or later. His huge body trembled violently. White Dragon Emperor Wally's gaze turned and stared at Los Vias, Archangel Michael, and Seraphil. Bang, bang, bang. His gaze finally landed on Seraphil. Repulsive force sent You'll be eliminated several hundred meters away. After saying that, Wally swooped down. A look of panic appeared on Loki's face, and his eyes were filled with shock. Looked terrible. Are you kidding me? She couldn't free herself to deal with Wally at the moment. You even sent him flying so far away. She could only watch as White Dragon Emperor Rocky roared abnormally. Her eyes filled with excessive shock. His voice was incomparably sharp. A sharp roar resounded extremely ear-piercing and made then a golden beam of light descended from the sky. Are you all right, Fenrir? The moment Wally was about to touch Seraphil, after being attacked so seriously, even he felt away from me, big white lizard. Evil god Loki. The powerful light wave turned into a powerful impact, forcing the aggressive White Dragon Emperor to retreat. And then a cold voice rushed into his earpiece. I don't know where you get your confidence from. When he was about to open the defensive magic circle, it was already too late. A heavy kick came down from the sky. Within the beam of light, a large number of photons condensed and flashing foot mercilessly into a figure that everyone was familiar with. His mind suddenly trembled. Impossible. His world you should have been killed by Orpheus. How come nothing happened to you? Wally was no longer as arrogant as before, by a powerful and his voice was several times louder to the ground, sounding a little harsh. His body came into close contact with the ground, dug his ears smashing and pretended to be disgusted. You are
His
not a
head was
eunuch,
covered
why are
in
you
blood as
shouting
he
like
lay in
that?
the pit.
Do you have some kind of special fetish?
Lord Loki and Fenrir
After
were
that,
instantly killed by
Dustless
that
purposely
guy.
kept a distance from
Lasvia's
Wally.
mind was in a mess.
You,
and her
hearing
pair of
that
majestic
Wally's
jade
handsome
rabbits
face
were
swelled
swaying
as
back
if it
and
was
forth.
about to explode,
The situation
and his face
changed
turned
too
red.
quickly.
Being
In
with
the
this
blink
guy
of an
really
eye,
makes
she
me
went
angry
from
every
being
time.
the prey to the hunter.
Wally's face was
She had
green
yet
with
to
anger,
adapt.
and the veins
Damn
on his
thing.
forehead were
Damn
popping.
thing.
If
Damn
it were
thing.
not for the fact
Loki
that he
seemed
still
to have
many
suffered a
questions
great
for Dustless to
humiliation.
answer,
His
he would
face
have
was
rushed up and
distorted as
fought
he
him.
roared angrily.
The companion
The
you were
boundless
talking
killing
about
intent
is
doubled.
this guy?
Being
The
kicked by a
void
nobody
suddenly
made him
twisted,
dizzy.
and a woman with
His
self-colored
self-esteem was
skin fell
seriously
out,
provoked.
covered in blood,
God was angry.
and there was an obvious dent
Whoosh,
in
whoosh,
her
whoosh.
abdomen. In
Just by
response to
looking at
Loki's
it, one could
indignation,
tell that she was in a
magic
terrible
circles
state.
appeared all over
Of
the
course,
sky.
there was also a
densely
blonde
piling
boy
up
dressed in
the sky.
female clothing
As
who
the
looked a
price
little
for
pale.
angering me, he was one of
Disappear without
Ria's
leaving a single
dependents,
piece of you
Gasper.
behind.
What's
The
this
silent
guy's
magic
name again?
circles rippled with
Dustless
destructive
scratched his
light.
head with a headache.
It was
and
not
could
just
not
one
think
or
of
two
anything
magic
for a long
circles,
time.
but the magic circles
I remember
in the
she
sky
said
were
something
blooming
about
with the brutal
inheriting
light of destruction,
Leviathan, blood or
disappear.
After
After
Loki's
Dustless
command,
said that, the light that was brewing in the magic circles shot out. Not only the originally
but
blue
she
sky
who
was suddenly
Leviathan
covered by the light
was
of
also the new
destruction.
demon king.
Because there were too many
You
of
bastard,
them,
there's
the
no
light
way
of
you could
destruction
escape from
condensed
Morpheus.
together
I
and
know her
turned into a
strength.
light of
You must have
destruction
used
that
some
covered
dirty
the sky
tricks.
and smashed down.
Wally looked as if he had
Boom,
seen
boom,
through
boom.
everything.
The moment it
In
came
your
into
world,
contact
the
with
infinite
Dustless's
dragon
body,
god Orpheus
the
is
void shook
invincible.
violently.
But I'm sorry,
Dustless's
it's a fact
body
that he
came
also
back safe and
disappeared
sound,
completely.
and it doesn't
Just
matter
as
if it was
Loki
a trick
said
or not.
before,
There was
Dustless
not even a
did not
trace of
explain
him
the
left.
matter between him and
This
Orpheus.
is the price for offending
The
me,
dormant
stupid
energy
guy.
in his body
Loki
surged
curled
as he
his lips
smirked.
and said disdainfully,
Since I'm back, you're
waves
in
of
for it.
golden light floated
Hearing
in the
these
vast
words,
sky.
Wally, who was
It was
already
very warm
unhappy
and
with
sacred.
Dustless,
It
clenched
gathered
his
in
fists
one
even
direction
harder.
and finally compressed
Dustless
into a
tone
vague
made
outline
Wally
of a human.
particularly uncomfortable.
How could such
Before
a thing
you talk
appear?
big,
You'd better
frowning,
take a look at
Loki
your
stared at
surroundings,
the human
Wally
outline
said in a
compressed by the
sarcastic
light.
tone with a hint
Combined
of
with the
schadenfreude.
light-speed kick
In the sky,
that Dustless
a
used
dense
just now,
swarm of
he
magicians
suddenly
had
had a bad
already
idea.
surrounded them.
Very
There are
good,
so
very
many
powerful
of them, several
attack.
times more than
The
before.
ethereal and abrupt
Ria's
voice rang in his
Junai,
ears,
and the others were
mocking
having
Loki
a headache,
without leaving a
especially
trace.
Ria's family.
His old face
They all
instantly
spread their
became
wings,
very gloomy.
intending to fly
If
into
this
the
attack
sky
is
to
really
support
powerful,
Dustless, why didn't your
I didn't
damn
expect
thing work?
you to be so
But I'm
charming that
sorry,
someone
I'm
would
the
be
flash
willing to
person
go to
who
hell
ate
with
the
you.
flash fruit.
Wally curled
This
his
kind of
lips and
pure
said
physical
disdainfully,
attack doesn't work on
Quantity?
me. All
Do you
your
think
attacks
numbers
are
alone
useless
can
against
change
me.
anything?
You're just asking to be
Dustless
humiliated.
could not help but laugh.
He could only secretly judge the White Dragon Emperor Wally's shallow
Chapter
knowledge and narrow vision.
1356.
This guy
Loki's
always
face
thought
was
that
black.
if he could not do
Dustless's
something,
words were
others could
tantamount
not do
to
it.
a direct slap
This
in his
idea was
face,
really
and it
childish
was a
and
very
idiotic.
loud one.
The meaning of
Buzz.
these words
The
was
night
obviously,
pervasive.
I will stand
Dustless's
still and let
body
you hit
floated
me,
out
but you
bursts
can't
of
hit
golden
me.
light.
It was completely
At the
different
same
from
time,
the previous
Fenrir,
photons.
who was previously
It was
sent
another
flying
kind
by
of
the
energy.
Tensigan, roared
It was
again.
also different from
Dustless's
the holiness of the
powerful
glint
strength
just
not
now.
only didn't hurt
This
him,
energy
but it
wave was
also stirred
abnormally
up the
evil.
anger in Fenrir's
What a
heart.
strange thing. It's worthy of being
and
a
the others
powerful
locked their
species that
eyes
can
on
rival the
Dustless, who was
gods.
floating in the sky.
Dustless nodded
Time seemed
secretly.
to have
This
stopped at
ugly
this
big
moment.
dog was very powerful.
Everyone looked at
At least he
Dustless
was
in
very good at
confusion.
fighting. Even the
Show
large
me
group
here
of
your
magicians
enemies,
who
me,
were
Loki.
attacking him stopped.
Rocky roared.
The materialized light
Dustless's
and shadow
indifferent
on his
expression
body made him
changed
feel like he was
dramatically,
being looked
turning
down
into a
upon.
monster that looked like a human but
The
not a
boundless
human.
magic array
It was
spread
an
out again
incomplete
in
miniature
a large
double-faced
black area
area
like before,
and it also
piled
made
up
a hand
all over
seal
the
with
sky,
Dustless,
emitting a bright,
very
destructive
dangerous
light
halo
wave.
radiated from
Still
his
the
body.
same trick. Dustless
raised his eyebrows slightly,
and the
Tianjia
power of the Tensigan
Then he
in his
removed
right
the
eye was
Kensu
twisted,
and quietly
and his own
looked down
form
at
also
Wally.
changed.
Nothing happened.
The emerald light
Is he
wrapped
trying
his
to
whole
scare
body,
us?
and several
Or are you
green
trying to
pillars
scare
floated
me?
behind him. After a few
Dustless's
seconds of silence,
temperament also
White
changed
Dragon
greatly,
Emperor Wally
and
looked
his eyes
around
were
and
filled
did not
with
find
arrogance.
anything special. Only with the
strength
really
of a
trying to
god
scare
can I
us.
defeat a god like you.
Ria's Junai,
Glancing
and
at
the other
Loki
students of the
faintly, several
supernatural
green
research
pillars
department
behind
were
Dustless
confused, and they
That's
all
not right.
liquefied and gathered in
Zizak
the palm
suddenly
of
spoke.
Dustless. There was a
The
rare
golden
touch
light
of
could be
emotion in his
vaguely
voice,
seen,
gathering
the
in the
sky.
palm of Dustless.
Look carefully.
But it was very
Look
weak,
with your heart.
as if it
would be extinguished at any time by the wind. And the others did not notice the slowly falling light of a firefly. But Sazax and the others clearly saw it. I am a god, and the others looked at the sky. Loki said proudly, the white dragon especially when he mentioned the word no exception. He deliberately emphasized the word. Asashel stood up excitedly. Dustless just glanced at him with pity. His eyes were bloodshot. Loki may be a god, but he is definitely the weakest god that Dustless has ever confronted so far. Jump out. The strongest white dragon magic in history had just arrived, the void, and now the most monstrous human face in history had appeared. It seemed that the whole world was the end of the magic array. That's a time to end this. He can summon a cold look in his eyes, and such a big one at that. The light in his hand like the end of the world is really here. Strength. The breasts of Rias and the others rose and fell like waves. Golden she was panting heavily, so her cleavage swayed even more. Golden light turned into a sword of light was about to destroy the entire world. That was not a meteor,
exceeded the limit
of
what
a
the eye
natural
could
disaster
capture,
sent
and
down
it
by the
attacked
wrath
the
of some
entire
god.
sky like a wave.
A bunch of idiots, what are you standing there
the
for?
magic circles
Do
that
you all
came
want
into
to die?
contact with it all
Shoot him
collapsed
down.
and were shattered by
Wally
the
yelled
absolute
when he
power.
saw that the magicians
The
were
withered pieces of the magic circles were no different from the broken pieces of a mirror,
desperate,
reflecting
if he was
Loki's
hit by that
stunned
thing,
old
forget
face.
about defeating the Great Red.
His future would
At the
only
same
be a dead
time,
end to hell.
Fenrir seized the opportunity.
His huge body accelerated without
Chapter
limit.
1341.
His four limbs gathered
What kind of
explosive
person could
power.
summon meteorites
When he
to
got
destroy
close to
living
Dustless,
beings?
he jumped up and
Demons
pounced
could
towards
not
the
do
sky.
it.
Fallen angels could not do it, and the same went for
For a
angels.
dog to be able to
Mere
jump
humans
so
could
high,
not do it,
you can
and
be
even
considered
some
to have
people
set
who
a
claim
new
to be
record.
gods could do it.
You deserve to be
As
praised.
expected of the person I
Dustless
value.
sneered,
His
and his
potential
boiling
is indeed
spiritual
unlimited.
pressure
Turned into a
The
powerful
elegant
girl
girl
was
was
sitting in the
suppress it.
void.
Faintly
The corners of
revealing
her
the
mouth
coat of
were
arms,
slightly raised,
the arrogant
and there was a
unruly
faint smile
talent.
on her face.
After
Which
chanting
was a
the
rare
ancient
incantation at
this
the
person
fastest
was the
speed.
infinite dragon
The environment
god
around
Orpheus.
Fenrir immediately
She was not in a
changed.
hurry to leave.
He was in the ropeway
with
of
the
the
intention
huge
of
coffin.
understanding more about
Dustless.
Orpheus
Inside
quietly
the dead
looked
silent
at the
coffin,
distant
Fenrir
horizon.
screamed in panic.
She was about 10
but no one
kilometers
paid
away
attention
from
to
the
him.
center of the battle.
It was as if the whole world had
others.
abandoned him. However,
Then
what shocked
Fenrir
Orpheus
found that he
was
was
that even though
locked
she
on
was
by
so
countless
far
sharp
away,
points.
the falling meteorites
Swoosh,
still
swoosh,
included her in the attack
Thousands of
range.
invisible
As
blades
a result,
shot out at the
Orpheus
same time,
had no choice but to
attacking
retreat
every
again.
cell in Fenrir's
What
body.
a mysterious person. There doesn't seem to be such a person
Although
in this
Fenrir
world.
avoided some of the
Ever
deadly
since
invisible
Dustless
blades,
left, there were
Orpheus
too many
began
to
to
think about.
It was
Dustless's
inevitable
background.
that he would be injured.
After all, this guy was
Soon,
unreliable.
his huge body was dripping with
refreshed
blood,
Orpheus'
and his
belief
skin
that the
flesh
Great
were
Red was
exposed.
the best in the
His
world.
breath was also
I'm
very
really
weak.
looking forward to
There were
what kind of
scars
sparks
all
will
over
be
his
created
body,
between
as if
he
he had
and
been
the
cut
Great
by
Red.
1,000 blades.
After taking a deep
His
look
white
at
bones
Dustless,
could still be seen.
Orpheus finally
Bang, bang,
disappeared
bang.
into the dark night
After a
sky.
while, the black
Boom,
coffin
boom,
collapsed,
boom.
and the half-dead
Realizing
Fenrir
the
fell to the
existence
ground.
of the meteorites,
He was only
the
one step
magicians
away from
worked hard
death.
to bombard
The
them.
scars all over
Thousands
his
of
body
energy
made people
gathered
think
together
about how
and
horrible
blasted on the
Fenrir had been
meteorites.
treated.
Even though he had lost
However, the
consciousness,
effect was
Fenrir
not
was still
complimentary.
trembling in fear.
Only a small number of
God damn it.
meteorite fragments
What did you
fell
do to
off.
my baby,
It
you
was no
bastard?
different from a
I want
fool's
you to
dream
pay
to
with your
destroy
blood.
the entire meteorite.
Loki, who had lost
Feel
control of his
despair.
mind, roared.
His eyes were
His
emotionless.
eyes were about to burst.
Dustless instantly transformed
So
into the
powerful.
Grim Reaper.
Lothwise,
The
who was
meteorite
stunned,
above his
was
head was the
horrified.
sharp side
She
that
did not
slaughtered
expect
all living
Dustless to be
beings.
so strong.
No, I can't
Loki
just sit
and
here and
Fenrir
wait
were
for
like
death.
rabbits that he could
My
play
dream
with
has
at will.
not been realized yet.
Lord Odin's
I
decision
can't be
to form
buried
an
in this
alliance with the
godforsaken
demons
place.
is too wise.
White Dragon Emperor
At
Wally's
first,
eyes
Lothwise
flashed
still
with
had
madness.
doubts about the alliance.
His body exuded
Now,
an
according
abnormal
to
energy
Dustless's
wave.
strength,
I
it was a good
awakened
deal.
as the second
After
heavenly
all, he
dragon,
was the son-in-law
deprived
of
of everything.
Gimli family.
The body
and the
envies
Norse
the
mythology
infinite, the
system
heart
would
seeks
definitely
dreams.
rise with him.
I, the
Do you
overbearing
want to be
white
like
dragon,
him, Loki?
invite thou to enter
Dustless
the
asked
limits of
faintly.
stainless.
His light
After
tone
a
was
series
weak,
of
and it
incantations,
gave people the
Wally's
feeling that he was
posture
holding
also
up the
changed
situation.
dramatically.
However,
His
nobody
body
became
became
larger,
larger,
and his magic
After all,
power
Fenrir
increased
was a
sharply.
lesson.
Before, he was only a human wearing armor.
It was fine if
Now
Dustless
there were
did
two
not say
traces of a dragon's
Once he said
aura.
it, Loki's heart ached.
Fenrir was
Dragon
almost sent
roars
to hell by
resounded
through the
Dustless.
sky. If he turned
White
a deaf
Dragon
ear
Emperor
to this
Wally's
hatred,
new
he would
stance
not be
stunned
able to
everyone.
survive in the future.
What's that?
He would
This
probably
feeling
be
is
laughed
really
at when he
unpleasant.
returned to Northern
Issei
Europe.
was sweating
I
profusely.
can't let it go like this.
The stronger white
I'm a
dragon
god.
King Wally
How
was,
can I lose
the
to
more
such an
uncomfortable
unknown
he
brat?
felt.
Loki
It wasn't
chose
that
to
he was
continue
jealous
his
of
deathbed
Wally.
struggle. It was fine
It
if
was
he,
just
a
that the
god
stronger
fell.
white dragon
After
King
all, there
Wally
was always someone
the
better
more
than
pressure
him.
he felt.
However, he
That
could
guy
not
is really a
tolerate this
genius.
person who made
He
him
can
fall.
use
Tyrant Dragon mode so quickly. Sashel was right. Wally Lucifer is indeed the strongest white dragon
Chapter
emperor in history.
1357.
The red
Most
dragon
Via
emperor
was
said
extremely
with a hint of
shocked.
envy in his
She felt
tone.
as if her eyes
His
were
old
blurred,
rival's host
and her
was so
breasts were
powerful,
heaving up
and the
and
second
down.
one was his host.
If she was not mistaken,
Regarding this,
Dustless
Dustless
seemed
could
to
only
have
used
used
a
a
casual move
In
to
this
kill
state,
this
he has
infamous wolf.
godlike strength.
Looking at his
Drake
half-dead
said
appearance,
softly,
it was a question whether he could
godlike
survive
strength.
in the end.
Are you sure?
Lord Loki, please don't be
Issei
stubborn,
asked
or you
excitedly.
will also. His
Her
eyes were
gaze fell
burning
on
with
Fenrir's
flames
head,
as if he
and
could see
Lothwise
himself
squirming
becoming a
mouth
god
suddenly
one day
stopped.
and flirting with
If
all
she
the
hurt
girls in the
Loki's
world.
self-confidence
Of
as a
course,
god,
as long as
it
you
would be
work hard, you can
counterproductive.
also enter that
However,
mode.
Loki
Drake
only
said with
glanced at
certainty. slothwise and understood
After
what she was
entering
trying to
Tyrannosaurus
say. His expression was gloomy
as if he had eaten 10 pounds of flies, and he
Drake
roared in
said
a low
in an
voice,
extremely
"Are you
confident
trying
tone.
to say that if I don't know what's good for me, I will end up like
The sudden
Fenrir?"
commotion
This was
interrupted
naked
Drake's
mockery and
speech.
slander.
Destructive light
You did
beams
well.
covered
I have
Wally,
never
who was
been
in
as angry
Tyrant
as I
Dragon
am
mode
today.
and fell mercilessly.
Loki's expression was ferocious, and his protruding
A
eyes were
crisp
bloodshot,
sound came from the
as if they
Tyrant
were about
Dragon's
to fall
indestructible
out.
defense.
You think too highly of yourself.
What's going on?
Dustless
Didn't
shook
they
his
say
head
that
gently.
Tyrant Dragon
He had killed
has
countless
godlike
people who
strength?
called themselves gods.
Kyoto Issei
and
rubbed
Loki
his
could
eyes
only
and
be
asked.
regarded as an
When he
ordinary
looked closer,
existence
he saw
among them.
Wally's head being stepped on by
At this
Dustless.
moment, Dustless suddenly
Tyrannosaurus's
realized that there was a
extraordinary
silver
slight
body
change in the
was also
sky.
faintly
A
blackened.
large pile of
It was
crystal
obvious
ice
that
fell,
he had been
and it was
badly
strange
burned.
that ice shards were
It's just a
falling.
big lizard.
Did you do
What
it?
are you screaming for?
Dustless asked with a
Dustless
frown.
looked down at White
course.
Dragon Emperor
Evil
Wally
god
and asked
Loki
calmly,
said valiantly,
"It's night
and at
now.
the same time,
Didn't
he
your
snapped
family
his
teach you to
fingers,
be
and the
quiet
sky
when others are
immediately
sleeping?"
froze.
Right, this guy seems to be able to control ice. Wally screamed as if he was protesting against and there was some interest in his words. But he was ignored. He then provocatively hooked his finger at Loki and said, "It's as simple as your strongest move." Issei's mouth twitched as he questioned Drake. Damn it. If that's Loki's mouth twitched when he heard this, and the ice shards falling from the sky also became several times larger. They were as large as a villa, and there were so many that it was dazzling. He's a special case. You want to smash like the computer games you humans often play? In an instant, he saw always all kinds of overpowered bugs. Dustless stepped on the void and avoided the attack. So he's an unstable factor and must be excluded. Idiot, the one who manipulated them with a red face. With a wave of Loki's hand, the ice meteorite that Dustless had dodged changed its trajectory, and Dustless came to slap him in the face. They would chase after him. The speed of the slap was too fast. Due to his carelessness, this guy is really Dustless's clothes were cut open. I might not be able to defeat him even when I'm at my peak. Loki looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Drake's tone was filled with fear. Although the insignificant attack had no effect, he had already classified Dustless as the great one, very real Red Dragon Emperor. In the previous battle, the infinite dragon god Orpheus, but he couldn't even touch Dustless's hair. Chapter Evil God 1342. I take back my previous underestimation. Emperor Let's deal with you a little more seriously. Idea. After all, Wu gave up on running away and turned to face the incoming attack head-on. The golden light turned into a sharp, cold light. Is this guy like the incoming ice meteor? Is he the reincarnation of a god? Whoosh, whoosh. The rumor of Dustless is the reincarnation of a god. As soon as one was destroyed, another demon appeared. You want to fight me? Hearing this, Drake fell silent. Without a doubt, his huge dragon eyes have the right to look down on mortals. Blankly. To be fair, I once had the same idea, had no identity and no background. They were even more as good as him. However, gods if Loki knew that Dustless was a visitor from another world, stood on and that after trampling on 3 worlds in a row, countless gods had died in his hands. What's that? He might not think so. Hearing this, Drager showed a look of disdain. A large vortex suddenly appeared in the sky, surrounded by meteorites. I can tell you that when I was at my peak, the White Dragon Emperor Rubian and I were both above the gods. The sword was emitting a dark red demonic light. A mere deity is not worthy of being in the hall of elegance. The whole world seemed to have stopped. Drake's tone was extremely arrogant, Loki's old pride and arrogance. Even he had a bad feeling. You and Dustless, who's this stronger? Is called the good separation sword. Issei blinked Dustless with interest. Explained calmly. Then he raised the spyro sword for a moment before he said, "Legend has it that it can destroy the world and stronger than me." Now remember, just a little bit like a grain of sand. After saying that, at this moment, waved the wily sword in his hand and impossible. I've already entered huge red sword dragon mode. How can I still not be your mash? The floating even the results seem to have met their natural enemy. It's one thing to lose in forbidden. When they came in contact with the huge red light, they all disintegrated. Should be. The sky cleared up again, and the warm sunlight shone down again. Dustless spoke. How is this possible? White Dragon Emperor I spent so much effort on this, he said softly. How can it be so weak? I never said that I used all my strength when I fought in a daze. Dustless had crushed his confidence in one move. Wally was so angry that he trembled. Sad. He felt putting away the good separation sword. In the past, he naively thought that he could easily defeat Dustless and comforted him. Forbidden. Look on the bright side. He did not expect that he would still be empty-handed. Tyrant Dragon. At least your attack tore the corner of my clothes. I will not lose so easily. That's not a bad result. White Dragon Emperor Wally struggled in his death throes. Looked like he had eaten Chinese gold thread. He erupted with powerful energy fluctuations and miraculously forced Dustless to retreat. What a strange item. At the same time, the good separation sword emitted an unprecedented sharpness. Just like its Dragon Emperor's light wings and the Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet, it was as terrifying as a natural disaster. The more emotional the host was, the more power they could unleash. As he stared at the spot where the good separation sword had come from Issei. A strange look flashed across his face. The mysterious rainbow space clearly did not belong to the universe's multiplying. It was because the light on his body was too obvious to a special zone. It felt like it was daytime, although Dustless did not know what was good for him. He had an expert shook his head in boredom. His patience gradually disappeared. Are you kidding me? He planned to persuade White Dragon Emperor Wally to get out of here so as to avoid humiliating himself. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dislocated. A thick beam of light whizzed over. Roar, hurry up and leave. At the same time, a loud dragon roar came from that space. We will also be affected. It reverberated between heaven and earth hurriedly dodged as if it came from ancient times. If they were hit, they wouldn't feel good either. A majestic crimson body suddenly appeared in his mind. Rias asked worriedly. Dustless could vaguely guess what kind of person it was, and she was about to fly over. There was only one dragon in the dimensional crevice. Come back, Rias. Gilifia pulled the anxious Rias back and smiled bitterly. If that guy is really killed, it means the end of the world. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Chapter 1358. White Dragon Emperor Wally's furious Although it's just a personal guess, heaven and there seems to be no one else in the dimensional silver light except for the Great Red. I don't expect Dragon God Orpheus was driven out by the Great Red a long time ago, and no one can associate it with the Red Dragon recorded in the nerves. Dustless either. Bastard, he only hoped to regain some face. Loki's face also but he was destined to be showing a rare look of awe. Wuchen looked at the incoming powerful existence that even the gods are afraid of. There was no extra emotion on his face. It seems that it's not wrong. Not only was he not afraid, Dustless's expression showed a touch of curiosity, anticipation, and his boundless observation hockey spread. The light bombarded the battle between Dustless and Loki has attracted the attention of many people, including the Demon King Syzax, even the sky was distorted. It shouldn't be dangerous to leave her here. Everyone looked towards where Dustless was. Syzax and Odin faces filled with curiosity fall and get hurt. But the next second they were all thinking that Lothvise was not in danger, was normal, Dustless turned into a red light and rushed into the dimensional crack. He was still as relaxed as before. The Great Red is the existence that he is most interested in. Dustless's clothes were still very clean. Seeing this, Loki slapped the table and shouted, breaking into the dimensional crack alone is no different from looking for death. When he opened Kinsisanu, there were actually some small cracks. Everything is still here. It was already commendable for Wally to be able to do this. Dustless looked around, and his observation hockey spread without limit, and found that the dimensional crack was boundless. This was too much of a blow, beyond the limit of what he could perceive. Now it's my turn to fight back, and the Great Red has long disappeared. Dustless tilted his head, thinking about how to deal with Wally. The void rippled, and after a majestic force he extended his thumb, and the blue energy ball of life contained great power. Wangsu's flash. This guy is not simple. The golden sphere whizzed out, dragon, and the places it passed by exploded one after another. And it was not difficult to see that he had a little more recognition of the Great Red. It was extremely fast. His observation hockey tightly locked the place where the sound came from, and exploded violently. Dustless's glint flash fruits ability broke out to the limit. Light spread to Wally. Whiz. His indestructible armor turned into like an iron beam of light melted layer by layer, and marched toward the fist where the Great Red was located. Wait and see. And White Dragon deep in the dimensional fiercely glared at Red's huge dragon eyes, realizing that it was not enough, and he could only felt the special energy fluctuation. The difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. It was as if it had evaporated and did not exist at all upon himself. It should be a misconception. This is a dimensional crevice. Chapter 13. No one can survive like me. Dustless was not like Orpheus. White Dragon unless she has absolute strength to suppress unless he wanted to, she should understand running away was his only choice. Starting a fight, there was no other way. As for the others, let him go just they should not be so stupid as to make me their enemy. From the paranormal research department, the simple-minded and ignorant infinite dragon, they looked at the White Dragon Emperor. The Great Red Heart was running away in disgrace. Go back to sleep. I have no feud with him. No, there are indeed unknown creatures coming. Dustless unbelievably fast, full of confidence, raising its eyes abruptly. Comes a hint of surprise flashed across its calm dragon eyes. I don't think he can be my enemy anymore. The Great Red's wings flapped lightly, and it immediately whizzed out, rushing in the direction Dustless had come from. This guy was too mysterious, and they could not wait to find out how many secrets he had. Powerful energy fluctuation was definitely not an illusion. Casually, could it be that Orpheus is here? A group of girls immediately rolled their eyes as the Great Red flew at full speed. They wondered who would be so exaggerated as to completely ignore the uniqueness of the dimensional crevice and mysterious dimensional world. And its target was him. Wally? Swoosh, swoosh, the infinite dragon god suddenly, Orpheus appeared without anyone noticing. Light came from the front. Her beautiful eyes stared at the battered and injured Wally. Even so, the Great Red Heart's calm dragon eyes could still see it clearly. You came at the right time. Child's play. Why didn't you stop him? Seeing this, it's the first time in my life that I've been beaten so badly. Completely ignoring the existence of the light suffered such a big loss. Did not put up any defense. Wally was furious, flapping and his temper was extremely bad. Charged forward after the battle with Dustless, it seemed like he wanted to use the hardness of his body to directly over the years was shattered. The light. Bam, bam, bam. The infinite dragon god Orpheus did not explode softly, but it was scattered by the Great Red tone that was within her power. I tried to control that guy, but I failed. In the Bible's revelation. All in all, it's not a loss for you to lose to him. Is indeed not to be underestimated. If I were to fight him, I might not even have a chance of winning. The hardness of this body. If this was said by Dustless, Wally could immediately laugh it off as a joke. Ripples appeared since it was said by Orpheus herself, and Dustless's voice entered the Great Red's ears. Is he really that terrifying? A large number of photons gathered and condensed into a human understanding of Dustless's original body. He still felt that it was impossible for him to defeat Orpheus. After all, she had unlimited power. Staring at Dustless, the Great Red limitless power, but so can others. Friendly expression. A strange look flashed across Orpheus' came from its dragon's mouth as he waved his hand in an imposing manner and said in a dignified tone, into its territory. Anyway, he's not our enemy yet. If you can speak human language, that with a little effort, I can turn him into a teammate in the trench. Oh no, I don't understand the bird language of your dragon tribe. Time flew by. Dustless stared in the blink of an eye. Dragon 3 days had showing no fear at all. I'm so sorry, Dustless. Obviously, unlike the dimly lit, the Great Red could understand what he was saying, and even understood the meaning behind it. Genova, Wisteria, even more angry, and the other person who spoke just now spread throughout the entire dimensional crevice. It's fine. Who is this mysterious guy? I can use this opportunity to skip school. The dragon squinted its eyes, won't have anything noticing that Dustless was not affected by its aura, his
as
face
if nothing
full
had
of generosity.
happened.
The Great Red's eyes also showed a
Listening
special
to his
color,
teacher's
alertness. He felt like his head was
Unreasonable
about
guy
to
trespassing
explode.
into someone
I've
else's
already told you
territory,
before that
and
I'm
even
going to leave
insulting you
Genova
with your
and
words.
Wisteria Arena
A
at your
clear
place
and
to
melodious
train.
voice
I
suddenly
have no
came,
choice but to
and
disturb
Dustless
you.
was stunned when
To
he
express
heard it.
my apologies,
He
please
looked
accept
towards
this.
the source, and to
A
his
mighty
surprise, the
lightsaber
great
appeared
red's
in
body
Michael's
began to
hand,
mutate,
exuding an
its huge body
indescribable
shrunk
aura.
without any
It
limit,
was unusually
and its
cold.
4 limbs and
When
wings
they
were
looked
all
at each
folded
other,
up.
their eyes
Felt
finally
a slight
the flower
burning
turned into an
sensation.
extraordinary
This is
purple girl.
Ascalon with the Dragon
This
Slayer
is
sword.
a female dragon.
If you don't mind, please accept it. With that, the beautifully shaped Dragon Slayer sword in Michael's hand floated
Chapter
to Dustless.
1359.
In other words,
Dustless
this is a
secretly
reward?
clicked his tongue.
Dustless glanced
He had
at
once
it and
imagined
asked.
the Great Red
In the
turning
end, it
into
was
a
still
human.
a subordinate.
After all,
So be it.
if her nemesis,
I'd be an
the
idiot
infinite
if I
dragon
didn't
god
take
Orpheus,
advantage
could
of
do
it.
it, there
You're
was no
right.
reason why
I'll
the
leave
Great
the two
Red
of them
could
to
not.
you from now on.
What did you call me?
Seeing that
Female
Dustless
dragon?
had Ascalon as his
The Great
subordinate,
Red's face in
Michael
human
let out a
form
sigh of
wrinkled as
relief.
anger flashed
If
across her
Dustless wanted to
delicate
send
little
Genova
face.
and Wisteria
I have a
Arena
name
back
too.
to him in the
You
future,
can call me the
he
Great
would definitely
Red.
be embarrassed.
The Great Red's
This was
human
also a
form
good
was
way to build a
exceptionally
good
stunning.
relationship with
Her
Dustless,
looks were no
who had
less
great
than
potential.
Rhys, Junai, and
He
the
even
others.
ordered Genova
In fact,
and
the
Wisteria
Great Red's
Arena to have a
unapproachable,
breakthrough relationship
goddess-like aura
with
was far
Dustless.
superior to the
That
other
way,
ladies.
when Dustless
Her
rose
black
in the
hair
future,
danced without
the
wind,
angels who were
her
gradually
pupils were
declining
like
would also be
gemstones
able to
embedded
benefit.
in her eye sockets.
It would be
Her
best if
tall
they could
nose
take
bridge was
advantage of the
exceptionally
situation
cute,
to rise
and
up.
her delicate red
He
lips
even
were
planned
like
the marriage
blooming
between the
flowers.
2 girls and
Coupled
Dustless.
with her exquisite
After
facial
all, he was a
features
pure
and that
human, so
ethereal
there was
aura,
nothing wrong with
even
it.
the most picky
Archangel
of beauties
Michael
would have
really
their
put in
hearts
a lot
racing.
of effort.
Your
Don't
eyes are
worry.
very annoying.
I'll definitely
A
train
hint
the
of
2 of them
displeasure
until they
flashed
become
across
famous
the Great
figures
Red's
in the
pretty
world.
face.
And then she
Dustless
mercilessly
patted his
chased
chest
him
and
away.
promised,
This is
although
my
he knew
territory.
Michael's plan,
Leave if
he
you
had
don't
no
want to be
intention of
reduced to
rejecting
ashes.
it.
In fact,
I originally
this was
thought
indeed
that I
a
was
small matter
shameless
for
and
thick-skinned
thick-skinned
enough.
Besides,
But after hearing your
Dustless
name,
had a good
I realized
impression
that
of
I
the
was
two
simply
girls.
too weak.
Although his
You actually
swordsmanship
added
was
the word
average,
great
Dustless had
in
seen
front of
many
your name.
swordsmanship
How
masters such as
narcissistic are you?
Hawkeye and Red Hair
Facing the
Shanks.
Great Red's
He
threat,
still remembered their
Dustless was not
swordsmanship
afraid
in his
at all.
head.
Instead,
Instead,
he taunted her
them
to
even
Genova
more.
and Wisteria Arena. Digging
I've
your own
said what I
grave.
wanted to say.
The Great Red's
Goodbye.
pretty face was filled
After
with anger.
saying that,
Michael's
from the
body
speed and
emitted
attack
a
just
warm
now,
light
she
that
could guess that
dissipated until
Dustless
it was not
disappeared.
ordinary. Finally,
However,
I
that
have
did
some
not
free
mean
time.
that she was afraid
Dustless
of Dustless.
casually laid down
She was
without
not afraid
caring
of
about
the
his
infinite
image.
dragon god Orpheus.
His eyes
So
were
why
filled
would
with
she be
fatigue.
afraid of a nobody?
When he was about to
She
take a
clenched
nap,
her hand
he
into a
suddenly
ball and
realized that his
smashed it
body
forward
had
without
become much
hesitation.
heavier. His eyes that had
Boom.
just closed
Boom.
opened again.
The space where
Genova
Dustless
and
was
Rena.
standing instantly
How dare
caved
you.
in.
Why are you two
Circles
sitting
of
on my
destructive
body?
ripples spread
Get
out,
off me, destroying everything that came into contact with it. Dustless himself
Chapter
was dismembered at the
1344.
first moment. Someone
Turning
inexplicably
into
sat on
countless
his body. So
If it was an ordinary
seeing
person,
this,
Wu
the
Ching
Great
would have
Red
already
raised an
smashed
eyebrow.
him into pieces
She
with a
stared
slap.
at the photons that
The
suddenly
sudden
actions
actions
of Genova and
threw out
Irina
another
really made
punch.
Dustless confused
Boom,
and
boom, boom.
abnormally puzzled.
The scene was
You're
exactly
our
the same
master.
as before.
It's necessary
At
for
the
us
lower
to know
limit
each
of the
other
void,
better.
circles
Rena
of
said
destructive
matter-of-factly
waves
as she
spread
tried
out,
to take off
as if the
Dustless's
entire
pants.
dimensional crevice
Hold
was
it, all of you
accompanied by
stop.
wails of agony.
Noticing the loosening
However,
of
the
his
light
pants,
did not react.
Dustless quickly
Although it
called
was
for them to
scattered by
stop.
the Great Red's
Looking
punch,
at the two
it
women
still
who were
gathered
like
in
wolves
one
and
place.
tigers, he could
A
not
lie,
help
lie.
but wonder
You're
what
really
kind of
heartless.
crazy place the church
Why are you
was.
so ruthless?
Who taught
Is
you
once
all
not
this?
enough?
Dustless
You want to do
asked
it again?
impatiently as he
The
rolled up
photon
his
rippled
sleeves
with a holy
as if he was
radiance,
going to beat up
and then
the
a
person
figure
who floated
floated out
Genova
from
and
it.
Rena bad
So,
things. Unexpectedly,
Master and
the
Rhys
Great
come
Red
here the
ignored
same
Dustless's words
Genova
and threw
another
another punch.
confused.
Bang,
That's
bang, bang.
because,
This
hearing
time
that,
the force
Dustless
used was
opened his
even
mouth
more
but found
ferocious.
himself speechless.
He did not expect Genova to
Dustless's
see him
body
being
was once
intimate
again
with Rhea's.
scattered and dismembered.
Rhea's and I did
The
it
pieces
because
of his body
the reason is
exploded
not
dozens of
important.
meters
I want to
away.
have children
It's
with
useless.
Master.
I'm the
Genova
shining
said
man.
unreasonably
You can kill
as
me
she
with your
pounced
bare
on
fist.
Dustless's body
I might have
and
died
started
a few
tearing
hundred
off
years
his
ago.
clothes. Rena was no
Dustless's voice
exception.
came from the void,
Her eyes were
and then
glowing
his
as she
dismembered
stared
body
at Dustless
exploded,
as if she was
turning
looking
into
at a
dense
delicacy.
photons.
Dustless's
Just like
body
before,
made her
they
hungry.
flew in another
They
direction,
There's something
and it seemed
wrong
like
with
they
the
were
way
going
they
to
look
heal
at me.
again.
What
Noticing
kind
the
of
two
monster
women's
is this
strange
guy?
behavior,
Immortal and
Dustless frowned
indestructible?
Genova
Her
and Rena
crystal
gave
eyes
off
were
the
filled
feeling
with
that they were
doubts.
brainwashed.
This was the first time the Great Red had seen such an incredible ability.
Archangel Michael.
What's your goal?
In order to win
The
me
Great
over,
Red raised
that
his
guy
fist
might have
and
fed
asked
them
in
some
a flat
bewitching
tone.
potion.
Me?
Dustless
Did
did not know whether
simple.
to laugh or cry.
After being reunited,
He was conflicted
Dustless
about
said
Archangel
seriously,
Michael's good
I
intentions.
want to be a dragon knight.
Although this kind
I
of
just
luck
want to
was not
capture you
bad,
and make you
it
my
came
mount.
so suddenly that
It's
he
that
could not
simple.
accept it. Capture
He
me
had
and
no
make me your
choice but
mount.
to comfort the two
The
women.
Great Red was
I have
obviously
something to do
angered by
now.
these words.
When
and
I'm
her
free,
body
we'll
trembled.
discuss the big problem
If you want
of
to
having
take
children.
advantage of me and ask for
Genova
some benefits,
and Rena
I'll let it
looked
go.
at Dustless as
But
if
your
they had been
condition has
electrocuted.
exceeded the limit of
Really?
my tolerance.
Biting their
Instead
lips,
of letting you
the two
continue
women
to be
asked
arrogant,
nervously as
I
if
think
they
it's
felt
better
that
to
it was
let you see my
impossible.
strength first
Although
before
I've
you
lied to
speak.
countless people,
The Great
I
Red
have my
showed her
principles.
valiant side.
I've never
She
lied to
opened her
women.
mouth slightly,
Dustless
and
said
a boundless
without
sea
blushing
of
or
fire
panting.
erupted.
When it came
As
to
expected,
telling lies,
all
it
dragons
was
have
one
the
after
habit of
another.
spitting fire.
Move your faces
Witnessing
closer.
the oncoming fire
Wuxia
shadow,
waved his hand with a
Wuxia couldn't
gentle
help but
smile on his
frown.
face. He looked around.
Genova and Irina
This
looked at each
exaggerated
other.
flame seemed
Although
to
they were a
occupy the
little
entire
confused,
space
they
of the
still came
dimensional
over
crevice.
obediently. Even the dead
Archangel
world
Michael
was
had
peeling
told
off
them to
layer
just
by
follow
layer as if it was
Dustless's words,
melting.
as if they were the
No
Lord's
wonder
orders.
she's invincible.
Moi.
She has
While
unlimited
Genova and
power,
Reno were
and
thinking,
it's easy for her to
Dustless
squander
attacked
it.
decisively.
Dustless nodded slightly.
He left his saliva
Unlimited
on their
power
faces
can
and
be
used
said
his
to be
mouth
her
to
greatest
sneak an attack
advantage.
on their delicate faces.
It's useless
However,
for you
the
to be
two
afraid
women
now.
did not look
The
embarrassed.
great red's eyes that were
Instead,
as
their
calm as
faces
still
were filled
waters
with
splashed
joy
out
and
huge
excitement.
waves.
One
Turning
of
into a
Dustless's
rolling
thoughts
sea of
was
fire.
confirmed. The eruption of the fire was
It should
even
be
more
Michael's
ferocious and violent.
That's why they're so loyal to
Dustless's
me.
body was
They
burning,
really like to
and
poke
even
their
the
nose
boundless
into other
abyss
people's
under his
business.
feet was
Are
distorted by
angels
the
also
heat.
so nosy?
However, his main
Dustless
body
stood
didn't
up
feel
and
any
patted his
discomfort at
clothes.
all. After
This
brushing off
guy,
the dust, he
seeing
stretched
this,
and
the
said,
great red
"Let's
frowned
go
and
home
secretly
together."
cursed Dustless
Rena
for
and
being
Genova did
troublesome.
not have a place
His
to
ability
stay.
was heaven
They had to
defying.
stand with Dustless,
Even if she
so
had
they
the
could
power
only
to
stay in
destroy the
Junai's
world,
house.
her opponent was an
Junai's
existence
house
that
was
was like
suitable
air,
for
so
two or
what was
three
the use?
people.
She
Once
couldn't
there were
hit him
more
at all.
people, it would
Be my mount.
immediately become
I
crowded.
can bring you to a higher
Zazax
world
was
and step
thoughtful.
into a higher
In
realm.
just one night, he
Dustless
had
had
transformed
roamed
3
Junai's
worlds
house
in a
into
row,
a magnificent
including
villa.
the world before
He
him.
even said
He had
that he would
already
send
roamed
500
4 worlds.
maids over.
They couldn't compare
Rias,
to
who knew
Dustless's
Dustless's
experience.
personality well,
His vision and
rejected him
mentality
on the
were
spot.
higher. In
Boy,
the
if
end,
someone
she
else
only
told
sent
you to be my
Gulifia
mount,
and a few
what would
other
you
servants
think?
to take care
Would
of
you jump
Dustless
into
and
my
the
arms?
rest. This is the
great
privilege
red
of the
forcefully
strong.
suppressed her
As long as
raging
you're strong
fury
enough,
and
you
looked
can have
at Dustless
anything you
with
want.
hostility.
Under the setting sun, the golden villa
She
looked like it was
enunciated every
plated with a
word
layer
clearly.
of gold. It was beautiful. The surroundings were elegant, and the scenery was refreshing. It was like a paradise.
Chapter 1360.
Dustless stood in front of the
Dustless was
villa.
speechless and
Beside
looked at the
him were
great red at a
Gulifia
loss.
and the other maids.
He awkwardly
That
found that he had
bastard
nothing to
Zazax
say.
Sent his
If
wife
someone
here as
dared
a
to say
servant,
those kinds of words to
Dustless's
him,
mouth twitched.
Wuchen would definitely
While
beat him
Gulifia
up
was
until
one
his
of the
parents
maids,
couldn't
and
recognize
this was
him.
her job.
No matter
Sending
what,
his
there's
wife
no
to
hope
take
for
care of his future
negotiation,
brother-in-law was something
sorry.
that Dustless admired.
Speaking of this,
Demons
Dustless's
sure are
eyes
powerful.
shone with a
In
piercing
the human
cold
world,
light.
a villa
Since
like
there
this
was
would
no
take at
hope
least
for
a few
peaceful
years or even a
negotiation,
decade to
the only
complete.
way left was to solve
Dustless
it by
sat down
force.
leisurely. I'm not even
Gulifia
afraid,
and
and the other
infinite
maids
dragon
immediately
god
crowded
Orpheus.
around him and
Why would I
skillfully
be
brewed
afraid
a
of
fragrant
you?
afternoon tea
The
for
great
him.
red raised her
Have a
beautiful
seat,
fist and
Gulifia.
showed no fear.
If I'm
This
sitting
little
alone,
female dragon
it'll be
is
too
the
much
same
of a
as
nuisance
Orpheus.
if all of you
They are
stand
both
and look at
ignorant
me.
of the world.
Dustless
The only
pointed at an
difference is that
empty
the
seat
great
beside
red is
him.
more scheming
However,
than the simple
Gulifia
Orpheus.
shook her head resolutely
Dustless
and
thought
said
to
in a
himself,
cold, professional
he didn't
tone,
intend to hurt
Lord
the great
Dustless,
red.
please
Boom,
conduct yourself
boom,
with dignity.
boom.
It's
Dustless,
my working
who
hours
decided
to awaken his
Cough,
force
cough,
to tame the
cough.
great red, hearing that naturally
Dustless
burst
spat
out
out
his
all the
strength
tea he
without
was
mercy.
drinking.
Endless
Looking up
chakra
at the
and
slender
Ryatsa
and
gushed out.
expressionless Gulifia
As the
with
main
interest,
body of the ten-tailed
Dustless
beast,
did not expect her to
Dustless's
call him
chakra was
Lord.
infinite. Moreover,
Dustless,
Gulifia
who also
was the
devoured
Demon
the
King's
spirit
wife.
king in the Shinigami
What
world,
an untactful
also
woman.
had infinite Ryatsu.
Shaking his head,
The greatest
Dustless
advantage
did
of
not
the
want to
great
waste
red
any
was her
more words
infinite
with
energy.
Gulifia.
The
Dustless
world
also
of
had
demons?
it. No,
Not
the
only
entire
that,
world
but
was
he
like
also
that.
gathered all
There was
kinds
a
of
saying that could be
heaven-defying
used to
abilities
describe
such
it.
as Rinnegan
When a man
Sharingan,
gets to the top,
Tensigan,
even his
and
chickens and
immortal
dogs
body,
get to the top,
including
elemental transformation, which could make him immune to 99%
Chapter
of physical
1345.
attacks in the world.
Now that
In
Gulifia
addition,
was calling
Dustless
Dustless
also
Lord,
had a large
it meant
number
that
of
she acknowledged
heaven-defying
his
weapons
strength
that
and
could
status.
destroy the world.
It was
such as the
necessary for a
parietal
strong
sword
person
and
to be
Yamamoto
respected
Senki
and
no
treated
Tachi.
with the highest respect.
They were all weapons
Although
that could destroy
Dustless
the
found it
entire
strange
world.
that his wife
Dustless
was sent
had
as a
too many
maid,
of them,
perhaps
so
it
the
was
great red
normal
had
in the
no
eyes of the
advantage in
locals.
front of him.
Perhaps
It
this
was
was
the
a
sign
sign
of
of
trust
trust
and
and
respect
so it
for
was
Dustless
destined to be defeated
and
and
become
become
Dustless mount.
Dustless suddenly
And
spoke
Dustless
after
himself
taking a
was
sip of
gloriously
tea.
sublimated
Gulifia's
into a
dark
dragon.
eyebrows were knitted together,
Wanxiang Heaven's
and her
pole.
jade-like face was
Dustless's
filled with
hand was like the
confusion.
hand of heaven.
Is there something
shooting
wrong?
out invisible
Lord
gravitational
Dustless.
waves? Of course there's
Gravity?
something wrong. Great Red
Hurry up
murmured
and get rid of the
frowned.
word Lord.
She didn't know
Dustless
why,
said
but when
with
she
a
looked
straight
into
face.
those purple eyes,
Thinking
she
back to
felt
what happened in
extremely
the past,
uncomfortable.
he started to hate
It
this
was as
word.
if she had met
Anyone
Orpheus.
who called him
No,
Lord
it was as
was
if she
either
had
a
met an
traitor
old
or
enemy
someone
who
who
was
was
stronger
plotting
than
against
Orpheus.
him.
It
Call
made
me
it
young
difficult
master,
for her to
I
calm
like it.
down. Dustless
Trying
said
to
with a
defeat
smile,
me with such
but
a weak
Gulifia didn't
gravitational
understand
force?
what
what he meant. The enemies who hated me were killed by me countless years ago. Gu Leifei opened her mouth and replied softly. Using the inertia of gravity, no different it arrived in front of Dustless, shaking his head in boredom. Its small white fist was filled with explosive power. Then he rested his head on his arms and closed his eyes to take a nap. The young fist smashed into Dustless's face, and stood beside but he didn't turn into like a photon like before. Like a female knight. Instead, he directly penetrated Dustless's head. Even if she knew it was unnecessary, she still did her job. It's over. Silver, who had activated God's might, even breathing was very softly as he pointed at the sky. Eulethia subconsciously turned her head and saw Dustless's lazy posture with an infatuated smile descended from the sky. He looked very satisfied and content. Bright God gave. Perhaps this guy only shows his normal appearance when he's sleeping. She stared blankly at the fallen red logs. Eulethia murmured Dustless to have a trick up his sleeve. Normally, Dustless gave off a terrifying and evil vibe, but now he was suppressed by the dense logs. Junai's house, or rather, a newly built mansion. The red logs that members of the Supernatural Research Department were all gathered, waste was suppressed by the red logs, and she couldn't move. And the cross-dressing young man Dustless saved a few days ago, Gasper. The immortal
Training in
technique,
the underworld?
bright god gate that I
Dustless
released
was
with my full
speechless at
strength
Ria's
isn't
sudden
something that
announcement.
Senju Hashirama
Training
can
was
compare
too
to.
boring and unnecessary
Dustless
for him.
squatted down and
Of
looked
course,
at the angry girl
everyone
who
must
couldn't
improve their
escape no
strength.
matter how hard she
The
struggled.
supernatural research
He couldn't help
department
but
is a
smile.
team. We
Be
can't
my
rely
mount.
on one
I
person.
won't treat you unfairly.
Rias glanced
Rubbing
coquettishly
the girl's
at
willow
Dustless
hair,
and said with a
Wu Chin
righteous
said
tone.
with a serious smile.
Hearing that, Dustless
I've already
could only
answered
shrug
you.
helplessly.
If you're willing to
He
be
actually
someone
agreed
else's
with
mount,
Ria's idea.
I'll be your mount.
His gaze swept
the great
across
red
Junai,
snorted and turned her head
Aisha,
away,
and
unwilling
the
to
others
look at
as well
him.
as Genova and
Stubborn
Wisteria
problem girl,
Irina.
it seems that
They
if I don't
definitely
teach you a
needed to
lesson,
improve their strength.
let me teach her a
Then
lesson
let's go
for
to
you.
the demonic
I know
realm.
her weakness.
Dustless thought
A
of
voice
Ria's
suddenly
mother
appeared out of
Venelana's
nowhere.
voluptuous
Not
body,
only was the great
and his
red
calm
shocked,
mind was
but even
instantly
Dustless
shaken.
was stunned.
Ever since he
Gave
gave
her a
instinctively
look
looked toward
fruit,
the source of the
Venelana
voice.
listened to
Orpheus.
everything Dustless said and
Dustless
worshipped him
and the
like
great
a god.
red said in surprise
She would
at the
never
same
refuse
time.
Dustless's
The great
orders.
red avoided Orpheus' gaze at the first
Please
moment.
wait for a moment.
Other
I'll go
than
make some
Dustless,
preparations.
Orpheus was the last
Seeing
person
that
she wanted
Dustless
to
and
see.
the rest had agreed,
She's kind enough to
Eulethia
let you
began
be
to
prepare
prepare
the items for
Why
their
are you
journey.
so untactful?
On the way to
This
the
is a big
underworld,
problem.
Dustless
You need to
stared
be
blankly
punished.
at the scenery
Orpheus
outside in a
grabbed
luxurious
Dustless and
carriage
questioned.
exclusive to the
Her
Gimli
black
family.
eyes looked down at the great
Eulethia
red,
stood
who
beside
was silent
Dustless
with her
like
head
a guardian
lowered.
deity.
A faint arc
Don't
flashed
always follow
across
her
her
naturally
Eulethia.
naive little
I
face.
have nothing to do now,
She
so
looked
go
excited
rest.
as if she had found a
Dustless
fun
waved
toy.
his hand impatiently.
I'll teach her a lesson
At
for
first,
you.
it felt
I
good to
guarantee
be
that she'll be
protected by
obedient.
Eulethia,
Orpheus
but as time
promised
went on,
passionately.
Dustless could not
At the
accept
same
it.
time, she sat
She
on
even
the great
followed
red's
Dustless
legs.
to the point where
A
she
carefree
peed and
smile
peed.
flashed across
This
her
is my
innocent
responsibility.
This girl.
Please don't make
Could
things
it be
difficult
that?
for me.
Could it be?
Eulethia
Dustless
opened her
suddenly
mouth
thought
and
of
indirectly
something.
rejected
He had
Dustless.
a bad premonition.
This trip to the underworld
dashed
is
in
not
front
just
of
for
Orpheus
training,
and was
right?
about to stop
I believe
her,
there are
but
other
it was
issues.
too late. After a while,
You actually chased me
Dustless
out of my
suddenly
hometown.
asked Eulethia.
As the main
Eulethia
culprit, you're
frowned and
unforgivable.
remembered that Dustless
You need to
was
be
no longer
punished
the
with the
same
most
as severe
before.
punishment. She gritted her
Then,
teeth
under
and said,
Dustless's
this
shocked
time,
gaze,
3 factions
Orpheus
have
raised
gathered
her
in the
hand and
underworld,
shattered the
and
great
they have
red's
also
bright
invited
toy.
the main god
Her
of the
two
Norse
fleshy buttocks
mythology,
were
Odin,
instantly
at
exposed
this
to
point,
Dustless's
Eulethia
eyes.
paused. Then Orpheus
Her
did
meaning was
something even more
self-evident.
shocking. In order
She
to deal
raised
with
her
the
fair
threat of the
hand and
calamity
swung it
cluster,
down without
the
hesitation.
demons, fallen
Smack,
angels, and
smack,
angels had set
smack.
their sights on
The
the other
crisp
factions.
sound echoed in
the
the
Norse
dead silence
mythology
of the
was one of
dimension.
no crevice. They're just
Not
looking
only
for
was
some
the
random
great red
people to
stunned,
use as
but so
cover.
was Dustless.
Dustless curled his lips and said disdainfully, the
At the
strongest
same time,
existence
he
in the
vaguely
legends,
understood
the real red
Sazak's
dragon god
purpose.
emperor, had her
He
buttocks
said
slapped.
proudly,
Apart from training, Sazak also wants me, your brother-in-law, to come and hold the fort, right? Eulethia
Chapter
was silent for a while
1361.
before nodding.
Dustless was
This time
dumbfounded,
they were
and the
indeed
thoughts
using
in
his mind
Dustless's
were buzzing.
power.
After
He had
all,
already
the
figured
main
out
god
how
of the
serious
Norse
and
mythology had
terrifying
come
this
this
matter
time.
was.
If they
The
did
great
not bring
red
out
might
some
fly
powerful
into a rage out of
characters, Sazak
humiliation
would
and
feel
start a war
embarrassed.
with Orpheus.
Dustless was
She
one
would
of the
not
best
hesitate
choices.
even if the whole world
Then you
was
have to be
destroyed.
careful. After
Don't
all,
fail
this was a
miserably.
matter of her dignity.
Dustless reminded
If
her in
news
a
of this
friendly
spread
manner.
out, she would not
He
be able
remembered
to
that
face
when
anyone.
Odin agreed to the
The
alliance,
dignity that she
an
had
evil god
accumulated
called
over
Loki came
countless
out to
years
mess
would be
things up,
gone, causing
She
a
would
series
become
of
the
troubles
laughingstock
later.
of the whole world.
Will someone come
Well,
out to
I
mess
say,
things up?
smack, smack,
Euleth's
smack, smack.
gem-like clear eyes
The crisp
glowed
sound
with
was
wisdom.
still echoing in
She was also a
Dustless's
smart
ears.
person and
The
understood
surroundings were
Dustless's
dead
meaning
silent.
after a short
The
thought.
silence was terrifying.
He stared blankly at the infinite
Chapter
dragon god
1346,
Orpheus, whose face was
Dustless
filled with a
nodded
vengeful
seriously.
smile. Not only
Even
did
if you
the
want to
evil
die,
god
you
Loki
can't
come
do
out to
this.
mess things
The
up,
real red
but he
dragon
was
god
also
emperor has the
inextricably
dealings
linked to
to
calamity
calamity.
of dragons. Thank you for
The
your
great
kindness,
red
young master.
is her but
Dustless.
for anyone to
I will
spend.
definitely inform
Most
Lord
importantly,
Sazak. She did not even
Eulethia
consider
bowed and
Dustless's
thanked him
existence in
seriously.
front of him. Forget about the
Buzz,
verbal
buzz.
thanks. Suddenly,
I need
the
physical
entire dimensional
comfort.
crevice was
How
filled
about
with
this
a raging
when we get
aura.
back to the Gimli
He
family?
could vaguely
You can
hear
help
the
me
crisp
take a
sound
bath.
of ka-ka-ka.
Dustless smirked
Following
and
the
winked at
source of the
Eulethia.
sound, it was
He
the
didn't
great
stop
red
until
whose
her
face
face
had
turned
turned red
black.
from teasing. Dustless
In
could
your
see that
dreams,
although the great red was
Eulethia
very
said
innocent
rudely.
in some
At
aspects,
the same time,
she was
she tried to
fundamentally
find a
different
trace
from
of
the
the
infinite
disappointment
dragon
on
god
Dustless's
Orpheus'
face.
After
No
being
reaction.
humiliated so
This
greatly,
guy was just messing
Dustless
with me.
was sure that this little
Eulethia
female
whispered.
dragon was about to go
Dustless
Dustless
berserk.
just looked at the scenery
Orpheus
outside the train quietly.
Family.
He didn't show any
Friend,
disappointment or
as
sadness.
expected, just as
Clearly
Dustless
he was
had
just
guessed.
messing with
The
Eulephia.
Great Red turned her head
On the
and
contrary,
stared at the infinite
Eulephia
dragon
felt
god
a sense
Orpheus,
of loss in her
who was
heart.
sitting on her with a serious expression.
Distorted?
She was almost biting out
Dustless
every
was
word.
surprised. Come
The
over
world
here
in his
quickly.
eyes changed drastically,
Sensing that the Great
as
Red
if he
was
had
about to
fallen
go
into a
berserk,
space-time tunnel.
Dustless quickly
Dustless
pulled
felt
Orpheus
something
over.
unusual.
Before
He
he
also
left,
vaguely
he did
saw
not
the
forget
others
to
in the
glance at the
supernatural
Great Red's
research
round
lab.
butt.
Buzz,
Don't stop me.
At this moment,
I'm teaching
the world
her a
in front
lesson
of
for you.
Dustless suddenly lit up with
Orpheus
a
spoke
huge
to
white
Dustless
light.
in an
A
extremely
cold aura
dissatisfied
swept
tone,
over, and his feet
teaching her
stepped
a
on the
lesson.
ground.
You don't have to
What
go
is this
so
place?
far as to spank
In
her
an
butt.
unfamiliar environment,
Dustless rubbed his
Junai
temples
and
in
the others
frustration.
exclaimed.
He was
Everyone's
speechless.
line of sight
The
looked
infinite
at
dragon
Wuxia
god
at the same
Orpheus
time.
spanked the Great
He had
Red's
already
butt.
become the
This was
deputy
definitely
minister
the
in
most
name
explosive
and in
news
reality.
of the century.
Is probably
Is
a
it
test
wrong?
made by some
That's
bored
what
guy.
I've seen in the human
Everyone
world.
relax. If they
There's
don't
no need
listen,
to be
they'll
nervous.
beat them.
Infinite
Dustless
dragon
shrugged
god
and said
Orpheus said with a
nonchalantly,
confused look.
At the same time, the mountain behind them shook violently. So you learned it from an exploded under the powerful force. Dustless's mouth twitched when he suddenly appeared. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Powerful aura and Orpheus was indeed extremely naive. What a huge lizard! Dustless exclaimed. There was an unusual energy fluctuation and a crisp sound. To his surprise, raised his eyebrows slightly and looked toward the source of the shattering roar. There was an unparalleled energy fluctuation that actually shattered the suppression. No wonder I felt it was similar to the White Dragon Emperor Wally. Dustless smiled. When any living being is enraged, his head will explode with even more power than usual. Everyone couldn't help but laugh when they heard truly angered her. The Crimson Dragon, on the other hand, really going to reveal her ferocious side. He sincerely felt that he was being looked down upon its wings and soared into the sky. Especially that contemptuous gaze. How was he looking at the great dragon race? Once again, instead he was looking at a weak as a dragon. It felt like its gigantic body blotted out the sky and covered the earth. No matter who it was, they only had one feeling in front of her, instantly pulling Dustless into the sea of flames. Help me deal with her. Dustless, I'll lend you my power and we'll beat her together. This is the consequence of offending and humiliating me. Orpheus said in a serious tone, who was burned to ashes. It seemed that he was not satisfied with the spanking just now and wanted to do it again. Its huge eyes turned towards Junai and the others. Orpheus obviously wanted to see the world in chaos. As the strongest being in the entire world, you can't be thinking that you can eliminate me with such a shallow move, who had once exiled her from the dimension out of thin air and slowly condensed into Dustless's body. Looking at the huge lizard that was full of flaws, there was another hysterical dragon raised his hand and mercilessly kicked it. The violent energy fluctuation came head-on. Dustless and Orpheus' hair stood on end. Although it was aware of the danger, looks like there's no way to negotiate quickly. Staring at the great red scarlet eyes, it was not worth mentioning compared to rapidly. It was inevitable that it would suffer a great loss due to Orpheus' provocation. Dustless's body erupted. The crimson lizard's head exploded with a monster that was even more terrifying than the great red flattened the surrounding ground. The golden evil light illuminated the entire dimensional crevice. Its body smashed into the Tengu helmet and the thick and simple armor. The defense of this kind of scale armor is not bad. Even though the two long swords were not unsheathed, the light speed kick only caused a shock to him. The aura that this giant exuded was even purer than the great reds. Although calling them the Dragon Clan is suspicious of them using their connections to intimidate others, to destroy the entire world, may even to be called the strongest, who did not know much about the world, being able to offset most of the power of the light speed kick. Orpheus spoke softly. It could be seen that the dragon race was not ordinary. Standing together, it was impossible for an ordinary person to break through those six scales. Hence, she could clearly sense how strong If it was not for the problem of my body, her head to look at hit by his attack. Orpheus blinked and muttered to herself, his pure strength no wonder he looked down on my strength. The crimson dragon's head was still burning with flames, that evil dragon safe and sound. Chakra is something that only I can enjoy. Most of the attacks it received were blocked by the scales on the outer layer of its skin. He did not have the ability like Orpheus to lend his strength to whoever he wanted. Looking closely, the center of the area that was hit by Dustless's attack was deeply dented and turned into scrap metal, as if she had made up her mind to make some kind of decision. It would be beaten up. She had a serious expression on her face. Remember my name. I am Demon Dragon Tani, at the same time from a great red who did not believe in superstition. The huge dragon eyes focused on her wings and could not move. Tani had already forgotten the mission that he was suddenly asked to destroy the world. His eyes were like torches as he looked down at Dustless. Any creature that was blown by that whistling wind could be dismembered. The minister is not here for the time being. Everyone work together and listen to my command. The complete consistency. Junai showed the spirit of the deputy minister. Attack. Two huge wings extended from his back and he flew into the sky. Calmly pulled out the golden touch down at Demon Dragon Tani fearlessly. What an eyesore, little demon girl. Demon Dragon Tani said unhappily. 1362. Being looked down at by a weakness of ninja could not vent entirely on personal reasons. He opened his mouth and spat out a thick pillar of fire. Several worlds in succession. His complete form appeared in front of the pillar of fire. Not to mention Madara, even Kagaya, the ancestor of Chakra. Dustless's current strength is more than 10 times stronger than her. Dustless floated in the ninjutsu is destined to be different from ordinary people in Dustless's hands. He was like a majestic and even has a dimensional barrier that was impossible to cross. Complete trying to hurt my under the control of Dustless's will, you've got raised the terrifying long sword faintly, and with a gentle wave, said the storm was easily suppressed. But he quickly changed his words when he realized that something was wrong. Light swept a golden firefly, and you want to compete with the moon? Through the wind and waves. For humiliation. The storm was easily defeated, at the thick fire and the pillar that was coming dimensional crack was restored to normal again. Rapidly, vaguely flickering with black flames. The golden cold light focused on the huge body of the great red at an extremely fast speed. The black netherworld descended from the sky. Seeing this, without any time to react, eyes of the great red suddenly destroyed Demon Dragon flash of fire flashed in her eyes, and immediately it had only been a few seconds turned away decisively. This pervert is too dangerous. Demon Dragon Tani, who was stunned, was shocked, to be able to predict the way he looked at Dustless and came in front of the great red and advanced. You're really strong, and a violent chakra broke out in his body.
Whoosh.
Demon Dragon Tanny's muscular wings flapped gently,
6 different
and
directions,
his huge body
and
ignored
around
the
Dustless
existence
and
of
the
gravity.
great red,
A
he
dark
walked
red
in the sky like a migratory
suddenly
bird,
appeared,
stopped in the
so you
clouds,
can't escape,
and looked
my
down at
lovely
Dustless,
mouse.
who was abnormally
Dustless
tiny on the
smiled
ground,
and immediately shouted,
"Puny? You're
"Six
right,
red
you're
young
really
formation." In a
Dustless
narrow
sneered.
space,
His
his body
body
was like a
complete
flood
flood
dam,
dam,
and endless
and the
chocolate
great red were
gushed out.
facing each other,
A giant
and
that
he
could
and the
destroy
great red
heaven
were
and
sealed
earth
in
was
a certain
instantly
range of
formed.
space.
He wore a Tengu helmet
is
on
strong,
his head,
and all kinds
and
of
a
simple
strange
and
and
heavy
powerful
samurai
moves are
suit on his
stronger.
body.
I don't even have
There
an
were 2
advantage
long
in all
swords
aspects.
that could shatter the
The
world
great
at his
red's
waist,
eyes were low,
and it made one
and her
scalp
momentum
tingle.
was obviously
The
not
golden
as broad
giant
as
stood between
Dustless's.
heaven and earth.
Even though the power
Dustless
of both
was
of them is
instantly
also
as dazzling
infinite,
as the sun,
Dustless has
and
an
everyone
overwhelming
couldn't move their
advantage
eyes
and
away
strength
from
and
him,
power.
staring at him
Release
in a
Orpheus,
daze.
and I'll be your
His height
mount.
of a few hundred
Lowering
meters
her
was
posture,
despairing.
the great red said
Even
to
if
Dustless,
one ignored the
which
giant
is also a
strength,
disguised
just
show
his
of
height
weakness.
alone was enough to
So
make
it's like
one
this.
tremble in fear.
Dustless frowned.
At first,
Just
Demon
as he was
Dragon Tanny,
considering
who was
whether to
soaring in the
trick
sky,
Orpheus,
looked down at
he
Dustless,
suddenly felt that
but
he was
now
being
he was just
hugged by
wandering
someone.
around the waist
The
of
delicate
Dustless's
little
complete
hand was
body,
soft as if it had no bones.
Gulp. It was very
The students of the
tantalizing.
paranormal
I
research
don't want to be your
department
mount.
stared
That
at the
dragon
towering
can be your
giant
mount
in
I
awe.
can. Due to
At
its
the thought of
ridiculous
this
height,
the naturally
it even
naive
blocked out the
Orpheus
sun.
paused.
The sunlight was
thinking for a
replaced by
while, he
Dustless's
said,
complete
"I can be yours
consistent
just like you
golden
and
light
Eulifia
sprinkled down,
Luciferus.
but what
You can
shot
touch
down
me
was
as you
not
wish.
the warm sunlight,
F
but the light of
CK,
destruction
what
that
the
could
F
destroy the world.
CK?
You
Is
he
he
trying
me?
to get rid of us
Wu
as well?
Chin, who was the
This
first
kind
to
of
react,
colossus can
didn't
cause
have a happy
landslides and
expression on
cracks
his
the earth
face.
with just a slight
Instead,
movement.
he had a
The
gloomy
tremors
and
might
sad
even be able
expression
to
on his
trample us
face.
to death.
What a
You
tragedy
say
it was to
Hugo
be
said
peaked
gloomily
while having sex.
Usually he did not like Wu Chen. He was not envious of Wu Chen's
Was I
strength,
too engrossed
but
to
he was
notice
jealous of
Orpheus's
his
harem?
existence?
Don't worry,
Dustless's
face
classmate wouldn't do
and
that kind of thing.
100,000 F
Shiba Yudo
CK
said with a smile.
Army jumped around
However,
in his
he was
heart.
also frightened by this monster. The great red was angry, and hot air came out of
A
her
height
huge
of 100
nostrils.
meters was enough
She
to
opened her
suppress the
big mouth
sky.
and breathed out
Maybe
a
it was
deadly
just like
wave
what
of fire
Hayato
at the
Issei
complete
had
form
said.
Konsusanu's
Maybe
head.
Wu Chen had
Orpheus
mistaken
is
them
too
for
shameless
insects
and trampled them to
Again?
death. What kind of
Let's
deep
retreat.
hatred is there
We
between
will
these
only
two
be a
female
hindrance if we
dragons?
stay here.
Also, Orpheus
Junai had no
appearance.
choice but to give the
Dustless
order
glanced
and
at
leave the
Orpheus
battlefield
with a
to the two
complicated
colossi.
expression,
and
and
saw
hey,
that her
Pocket
eyes were
Dragon,
full
do you
of
still
light,
think you're big
and her
this
hands
time?
were rubbing each
Are
other
you as big as
as
my
if she
complete
wanted to
body,
experience the
Konsusano?
feeling of the
If you
great
think
red's
you're small
perky
enough,
butt.
I can make him
She's
bigger.
incurable.
Dustless
Dustless
shook
jokingly.
his head and looked at the
Konsusanu's
incoming
height would
fire
be
pillar
increased
calmly.
again
by incorporating
He
other
raised his
abilities
right
such as
hand
immortal
calmly,
arts and a destructive
looking
ball
down at Demon
condensed in
Dragon
front of his
Tanny,
thumb.
who was flying around.
Dustless had
With
a
the
teasing
energy ball
expression
in
on his
Dustless's
face.
hand as the
He
center,
hooked his finger
the
at him,
surrounding
and the
void
meaning
twisted
was
self-evident,
self-evident, and a
Humph
vortex
is
appeared.
just an empty shell.
This energy ball
Demon
was like
Dragon
the mouth
Tanny
of a deep
retorted
sea
with a
spring,
red face,
swallowing the
his red
surrounding
old
space
face
became even
the
redder.
infinite dragon
He was
god Orpheus
disgusted by
and the great
Dustless.
red's eyes were
Dustless
attracted
was
to
just
it
a
at the
tiny
same
grain
time.
of sand a moment
This
ago.
guy,
Now
the great
he had
red was
transformed
extremely
into an
depressed,
ancient
and she could not
godlike
help but
existence.
complain in her
And
heart.
Demon Dragon
How many
Tanny had
moves does
become
he
a
have
baby
that can
in his
tear or
eyes.
even shatter
Demon
space?
Dragon Tanny
When
was
he
gloomy.
invaded the dimensional
This thing is
crevice
just
just
an empty
now,
shell. It seemed like
I
he
can
tore
kill
it
it in
apart
one
with
hit.
brute force. Demon Dragon
great
Tanny
red
felt
felt very
very
aggrieved.
like fangs.
She had
and
not
a
done
huge
anything
fire
that
ball
offended the
condensed in his
heavens.
mouth. So why did
Seriously,
the heavens
I wanted
send
to
such a
train
great
them.
demon to go
How did it
against
turn
her?
out like this?
So powerful. On a mountain far
Orpheus
away,
blinked her eyes,
Sashel and
and she was a
Eulifia
little
were
more
beside
curious
Laius.
about Dustless's
This is all
strength,
because you two
origin,
hid it
and
from
identity.
Eulifia
Wangsu's
said
flash.
indifferently.
As
At the
Dustless's
same time,
voice fell,
she glanced
the
at
golden
a
energy
satchel from
ball
the
stood
corner
out,
of her eyes.
and the moment it shot
he probably
out,
had
the
other
light
plans.
became countless
He
times
wanted to
bigger.
use the legendary
Boom,
dragon
boom,
to
boom.
test
The
Dustless's
golden
strength.
light of destruction
Boom, boom,
shattered
boom.
the flame attack
Thick
of the
flames
great
attacked.
red in an almost
The huge
invincible
pillar
manner,
of fire was
and
only
the flames
7
were
to 8
shattered
meters
like raindrops by the
The
void
high
flash.
density of the flames
Although
could
it's
even
called
melt diamonds in an
Wangsu's
instant.
flash.
Under
Not
my
bad.
unlimited infusion of Ryatsu,
Konsusanu's
its
golden
power has
sword
been
was
sublimated
unsheathed,
from its
and the
scabbard.
essence of the void
Dustless
flash has
controlled the
transformed,
Tachi of light
and the
with his
power of
mind.
Wangsu's flash
Still too weak.
is completely
Boom,
different.
boom, boom.
Dustless
The tip of the
muttered to
Tachi of
himself
light
in an
flashed
extremely
with a
calm
flash of
tone.
sword light. At the same
Like a
time,
hurricane,
he also realized that it was
instantly destroyed
impossible
the
to incoming pillar of fire and crushed it
and
with
he could
an
only
unstoppable
temporarily
force,
control her
turning
by
it
means
into
of
sparks
genjutsu.
that filled the sky.
In this way, this
was
boring
just
farce
the
would come
beginning.
to an end.
Whoosh, whoosh,
The
whoosh.
Rinnegan
The
Sharingan stared
unstoppable
at the
blade
eyes of the
continued
great red,
forward,
emitting
It was
strange
unstoppable.
ripples, and the
Even
nine
the lazy
lazy
clouds
also
collapsed
trembled
on their
and
own.
the consciousness
Everything
of the
that
great red
came
was
into
quickly
contact
swallowed.
with it was destroyed.
The range of the attack from the front to the back was actually dozens of kilometers away, and there was an endless gap in the depths of the sky.
Dustless's Rinnegan was
This
completely
state and this
different from
unparalleled
others.
attattack.
Not only did
It's
it
already
have powerful
surpassed me
attack
at my
power
peak,
and sealing
Hugh
technique,
Issei's divine
but it also
weapon
had
Drake
extremely
said numbly.
dangerous illusion
Ordinary
technique.
dragons were
Not
like
knowing the
pocket-sized
ability of
people in front of
Rinnegan,
Consusanoo.
the great red
Only
stared
the great
blankly
red
at
could
Dustless.
compare.
And
Soon
the most
she
shocking
fell into
thing
the
was that
nightmare
from
created by
Dustless's
Rinnegan.
tone,
This
roar,
majestic
a
giant
deafening
seemed to be able to
snoring
grow
sound
bigger.
came from the sky.
It was not at its peak.
Looking carefully, the great red actually fell asleep.
Phew. It's finally over.
Chapter
After removing
1348,
Kensusanu's huge
the power
body,
of Kensusanu's perfect form was revealed without
she really
a doubt.
fell asleep.
The 100-meter-tall body looked like the culprit that destroyed the world.
Left and right.
The ferocious
After
Tengu
seeing
armor
that she
made
really
people
fell
not
asleep,
dare to
she
look at it
landed on her
directly.
body without
Being
any warning.
glanced at by those
Could
eyes
it
that
be,
were bigger than human
suddenly
eyes,
remembering
they could not
Orpheus's
help
strange
but want to
behavior,
kneel down and
Dustless's
submit.
eyes twitched.
Gulp. So powerful,
He vaguely
definitely
guessed what
more
she was
powerful
going to
than
do
Drake.
and looked at Orpheus
Demon
with a
Dragon
pained
Tanny
expression.
choked in shock.
Clap, clap,
Looking
clap,
at
clap.
the wound that was
Sure
about
enough,
to cut
after
the
a
world
while,
in half,
a familiar
he was
sound
sure
came.
that if he was struck,
Orpheus
he would be
sat on
split
the
into
enormous
several
body of
pieces
the
like
great
paper.
red.
Waving
Let's
her
test
slim
him again.
arms and beating the
With a
scales
fierce
on the
glint
great
in his
red's
eyes,
body rhythmically.
Demon Dragon
This
Tanny
guy,
made a shocking
seeing
move.
such a scene,
He
shot
shot
into
into
the
the
sky
sky
like
like
a
a
rocket
rocket
and
cry.
flew above Dustless' He had a perfect clearer form understanding consisting of of Orpheus's weirdness.
After circling a few
in the
times,
dimensional
he
crevice,
decisively
there was no
sneak attacked
passage of
perfect
time.
form consisting
Everything
his
was
back.
still. A
After
giant
an
like you
unknown
shouldn't be
amount of
good at
time,
moving.
the great red
As long
opened
as
her
I
eyes.
attack your back, I think
Strange.
even if you have
Why
the
did I
power to
become a
destroy
human
the
again?
world, you
The
won't be
great
able to
red
do
muttered
anything
in
to me.
confusion.
The huge
Dustless
wings
sat in
flapped,
front of her with his
fanning
back
out a
facing
violent
the great
hurricane.
red.
Demon
Just as
King
he was
Danny
about to
felt
ask
like a meteor
something,
with
she
a loud
suddenly
rumble.
felt itchy on her
He
butt.
opened his mouth and
It
was
was slightly
Dustless's
swollen and
back.
slightly painful.
It seemed like he was planning to use his mouth
clap.
full of fangs
The
to crush
infinite
perfect
dragon
form
god
Orpheus
Orpheus
slapped the great
It's a good
reds, but
idea,
with all her
but
might.
it's really childish.
While slapping the corner of her
Dustless
mouth,
turned
she
his
muttered,
head and glanced
in
at
the human
Demon
dragon
Dragon
Tanny who
child
was
makes
above
a
him.
mistake,
He
their
could see
parents
the
will hit him
excitement
like
in his
this.
dragon eyes.
You evil dragon
Perhaps
are
he
so
had fallen
bad,
into
I will
his
definitely
dream of
teach you a
defeating
lesson.
him. Still not
Seeing
breaking,
this, the great red
in the
almost
blink
spat
of an
out a
eye,
mouthful of
Demon
blood.
Dragon
He
Tanny
hurriedly
approached
turned
perfect
around
form
and kicked the
Kensusanu's
infinite
back.
dragon god
He
Orpheus
used all his strength
away.
to bite perfect
I
form
tried to stop
Kensusanu.
her, but it was
Crack,
useless.
crack, crack. Dustless
A
shrugged
crisp
as if it had
sound
nothing to
suddenly
do
came,
with him.
and
Everyone
pushed
thought
all
that
the
Dustless'
responsibility
perfect
to
form
Orpheus.
Kensusanu had
It was not
collapsed.
hard to see that
Looking
the
at the
swollen
source,
by
the
the
result
great
was shocking.
one were all thanks
The
to
fangs in
Orpheus.
Demon Dragon
In
Tanny's
Orpheus'
mouth were
words,
all shattered
who
like
asked her
powder.
to expel me from
Not
my
bad.
hometown?
It's still
This
too
is my
difficult to
return.
tear apart
You
Kensusanu's
too.
complete body. Hearing this,
Let's
great
stop
red
here.
flew into a
Two
rage.
thick arms
Suddenly
she
appeared
clenched
on
her
the
fists
shoulders of
tightly.
the perfect form
She wanted to
Kensusanu.
beat up Dustless,
While the Demon
but she
Dragon
couldn't
Tanny
muster
was
up the
grimacing
courage
in
to do
pain.
so.
The arms
Dustless
grabbed the
used his
legendary
illusion
dragon
again
like
and
catching a
then
rabbit.
Orpheus.
The great
Ayo,
red
ayo,
was
ayo, ayo.
incomparably gloomy. Feeling that his neck
He
was being
secretly
grabbed
cursed
by a
his
giant
bad luck
hand,
in his previous
the demonic
life to have
dragon
met two
Tanny
such
struggled with all
strange
his
might.
might.
In his next life.
He shook his
In
body
any
and
case,
opened
there's
his
no
mouth
need to
wide
be
to
enemies
spray
with me.
high-density flames
You have
onto
already
the complete
become my
Kensusanu.
spiritual beast.
However, nothing
Dustless's
happened.
shocking words
Cough,
caused
cough.
great red's
That
heart
he-
to turn cold.
Lord Dustless,
in your
please
dreams.
forgive me for offending you. Everyone thought that demonic
Great
dragon
Red's
Tanny would
beautiful
fight
face was
Dustless
filled
until
with
one of
anger,
them died in
and her
battle.
watery eyes
Who would
were
have
filled
thought
with
that this
refusal
majestic
and
and
resistance.
domineering dragon
He-
would actually
hearing
apologize
this,
with a
Dustless
flattering
just
smile?
smiled casually
This
and
made
then said
everyone's jaws
mercilessly,
drop. When you were
especially
asleep, I had
Ito
already
Ichichu
used
thought to himself,
reincarnation
where is this
Sharingan
dragon's
to
integrity?
control you and complete
You're a
the
legendary
spiritual
dragon,
beast's
so you
title.
have to pay
It's
attention to
useless
your
to
image.
resist. Hearing this, Great
You're a
Red's
dragon,
heart
so
became
don't
even
ruin
more
your whole
dead and
race.
was filled with despair.
Dustless looked down at
You
the
shouldn't be a
smiling
person
demonic
of this
dragon
world.
Tanny.
Such a
His
strong
cold
existence
face
like
flashed
you
with
is
some
simply,
warmth,
and the
simply
perfect
what?
form Kensusanu
Simply
loosened his
violating
grip and
the
let
rules
him
of this
go.
world?
Dustless
Dustless
boring
interrupted
farce should
Great
be over
Red
now.
and asked.
He
As you
turned his
said,
head
I
and
am
revealed
indeed not
half
a
of his
native of
face.
this world.
The power
Dustless
of the
was
Tensigan
about
was
to be
boundless,
mid-light,
as if it
and
could
his
see
deep
through
eyes
the
seemed
world.
to be able to see through
Rias
space.
and Asashel,
The
who were
universe
immersed
in
in
the
vast
darkness
and boundless,
also appeared
this
in front
world
of
is
him.
just an insignificant,
Cough, cough, I'm
lonely
sorry,
boat
everyone.
among the countless
This
worlds.
sudden accident was
To be
actually
honest,
a test
I have
from my
already
brother.
experienced 3
Rias
worlds
said
in a row,
helplessly and said
but
awkwardly,
unfortunately,
perhaps
that dragon's
because of
name
my
is
bad
Tanny.
temper,
He
those
was invited
3
by
worlds
my
were
brother
destroyed
to
by
train
me
you
in the
all.
end.
Please don't mind.
I hope this world is not like
that was
that.
really a shock. Dustless
Ito
quickly
Ichich
added,
collapsed on
it's
the
time
ground,
to go back.
and everyone felt
Standing
that the
up and
mountain
stretching
on their
his
bodies
body,
disappeared.
Dustless's eyes that were
I don't
still
mind,
still
but I'm
went
afraid
berserk
that they
once
can't
again.
take it.
Divine
After all,
might. A dragon is too much for them. The void
Dustless
was torn
shrugged
apart
and
by
said
an unknown
indifferently,
force, and a
he
huge
did not
black hole
organize
appeared.
Riaz's training,
Both
although he
Orpheus and
felt
Great
that it was
Red
very
could feel
boring.
that the other side of the
This
black
method
of improving strength was also very
Such a
slow.
strange move.
And in Dustless's
Where did he get
view,
so many
there
of
was
them?
no future.
Great Red was
Long
speechless,
time no
and
see,
her tone
Teddy.
was sour.
The Red Dragon
There was even a
Emperor's
hint of
gauntlet
envy in
glowed
her
with
gem-like
emerald
eyes.
light. And Drake's
As a member of the
voice
dragon
entered
race,
everyone's
she
ears.
seemed to only have
Long
those
time
few
no
moves.
see.
To Drake,
Compared to Wu Chen,
demonic
she was
dragon
extremely
Tanny
poor
replied
and
in a
pedantic.
nervous tone.
Feel free
At the
to go
same
wherever
time,
you
he
want.
peeked at Dustless
Anyway,
from
when
the
I
corner of
summon
his
you,
eye,
you can just come
afraid that Dustless would change
said
his
faintly.
mind and tear him apart
Just as he was about to step
still
into the
could
black
not control
hole,
his
a
body
spirit
well.
blocked his
The
way.
perfect form
There shouldn't be
was
any
too much
grudges
of a
between
deterrent,
us,
right?
It was the first time he met
Orpheus?
someone of this level who was
Dustless
so
frowned
powerful
as he
that he
looked
could
at the
easily
naturally
kill him.
naive girl in
Don't
front of
mind
him,
it.
puzzled.
Dustless
Of course
glanced
there
at
is.
demonic dragon
I have
Tanny
decided
and
to
said
follow you
casually.
from now on.
He did not have
Meeting
any ill
Dustless's
feelings
gaze,
towards this funny
Orpheus
dragon,
said seriously,
although he was a little
her
smart.
tone and expression were
Everyone,
very calm.
let's return
as
to
if
the
she was
Gimli
narrating
family's
something
territory
insignificant.
first. Completely
Mother and brother
ignoring
have prepared a
Dustless's
banquet to
feelings.
welcome you.
What's the reason?
Consider it an apology
Dustless
for this
asked.
rash action.
She had already turned
Rhea
Great
smiled
Red into a
elegantly.
psychic beast.
Her
and the
bell-like
dimensional
laughter was
crevice
very
pleasing
pleasing
to
to
the
the
ears.
ears.
Orpheus
Speaking
had
of which,
also
why did I
obtained the
feel
piece
so
that she
many
had always
powerful
wanted
auras just now?
Her?
Are the
Great
gods of
Red
other
suddenly curled
mythological
her lips,
systems here?
as if she had
I'm
seen
really
through
looking
Orpheus'
forward
thoughts
to the
and
gods of this
revealed
world.
Orpheus' secret.
Dustless muttered to himself and looked at Riaz expectantly. I'm not sure about that. Riaz shook her head
Chapter
blankly.
1364.
She had not returned home
Dustless
yet.
suddenly felt that these
How
two
is this
little
possible?
female dragons were
This
extremely
place is hundreds
interesting.
of kilometers away
He
from the
blinked his
Gimli
eyes and
family's
asked,
territory.
according to my
How did he
personal
know the
guess,
situation
the
there?
relationship between
Did he
the two
rely
of you
on his
seems
own
to be
senses?
unusual.
Is there some
heart
kind
was
of
in
connection?
turmoil, and she could not
The
calm
infinite
down.
dragon god Orpheus
Her beautiful
and the
eyes
great
were
red
filled
lowered
with
their
shock
heads
at
at
the
the
same
same time.
Dustless in
In
disbelief.
fact, when Orpheus
Her
was
heart was
chased
about
out
to
of the
jump out of her
dimensional
chest.
crevice, Dustless was extremely curious. This was because the strength of the two dragon gods was
Chapter
almost the same.
1349.
If they fought, it
Due
might
to her
cause the world
excessive
to
shock,
collapse.
It
It was
was
impossible for the Great
violently.
Red to chase
Her heart
Orpheus
was
away
filled
with
with
brute
shock.
force unless
She
she
had
risked
only
the
just
danger of the
received
entire
news about
world being
Zach's.
destroyed. But Dustless
Of course,
had
there was
received it
another
at the same
possibility.
time. He had
Perhaps
sensed it with
Orpheus
his
had
own
deliberately
strength.
left the
What
dimensional
kind of monster
crevice?
is this guy?
According to Dustless's
Eulethia
guess,
bit her lip,
although the
her lips
possibility of
trembling
this was
slightly.
extremely small,
There's going to be
it
a
was
big
the most
banquet in a
logical.
few days, and
I've
all
been
of you
in
will
the
be
dimensional
attending.
crevice for
I
too
heard
long.
that the younger
I just wanted
generation
to
of
see the
demons will
outside
be there.
world, but you evil
Of course,
dragon
there
took
will also
advantage
be
of
an
the
important
situation
guest,
to rob my
an old man
hometown
from
and
northern
your
Europe.
hometown?
Asashel
Nonsense.
interjected.
You and I
So
were
it's
born in
someone
the
from
same
another
period.
mythological
You don't
system.
have the right to
Dustless
monopolize the
mumbled to
dimensional
himself.
crevice.
There seem
The
to be
name of
many
the infinite
mythological
dragon god
systems in this
Orpheus
world.
is also not
Should I
written
drag
in the
that old
dimensional
man
crevice.
called Odin down
You're
from his
talking
position as
nonsense.
the main god and
Bullshit
replace him
with
with me?
tea.
Dustless
Orpheus
lowered
who
his
had
head and
transformed
thought.
into a human,
It seemed that he
and
was
the Great
hesitating
Red were
whether to
spitting at
kill
each other.
Odin or not.
They were fighting until
Shut
their
up.
faces were
Don't
red.
say things like that.
Dustless didn't know whether to
Eulethia
laugh
scolded
or
with a
cry
straight
as he
face.
looked at the two dragon
She had even
gods who had
forgotten
entered
about
their
their
relationship as master and
He
servant.
couldn't help but
Even
feel that
jokes
the
should
affairs
stop
of the
before
world
going
were
too far.
unpredictable.
This
Perhaps
guy really
everyone
is
in the
lawless.
world thought that these two
Asashel
were
lamented in
existences
his
that would
heart.
fight to the death.
He did not doubt
However,
Dustless's
the
strength.
scene in front of him
If
had
this guy was
probably
determined to
refreshed the
snatch
world's
Odin's
understanding.
position, then no
Do
one would
as you
be able
wish.
to stop him.
The two of them probably wouldn't
At
stop
this moment,
anytime soon.
Dustless suddenly looked up
shook
with
his
a
head
frown.
and decisively
What's
turned
wrong?
to leave.
Eulethia
The matter
asked.
between these two
She was
little
already
female
on her
dragons
way
was
to the
not
Jumanli
something he could
family's
participate
magic
in.
circle.
The air
It's
in
nothing.
the underworld smells
I just
better.
sensed a familiar
Just say
aura.
that it's filled
Don't
with the
worry
smell
about
of
it.
decay and death.
Dustless shook his
Looking
head as
down
he
at
looked
the
at
blue
Kitten
sky under his
thoughtfully.
feet,
A
the
rare
densely
look of
packed
fear
cities
flashed
were
across her
especially
naturally
small, like
dazed
grains
face.
of sand.
Looks like
Whoosh,
it really
whoosh,
is her
whoosh.
sister.
Dustless's
Dustless
body swept
mumbled.
out thousands
He
of
had met
gorgeous
Black
rays of
Song
light,
touching
and
once
then he
before and
disappeared.
was somewhat
He
familiar
charged
with her.
straight toward the
He still
territory of the
remembered her
Gimli
scent.
family.
All
At
in
this
all,
moment,
our
the other
mission
side
in the
was in the
underworld
midst
this
of
time
public
is to train.
discussion.
I hope you can
You're
do your
saying
best.
that the guy called
Riaz's
Dustless
gaze
crippled
swept
Loki
past
and Junai
Junai
and the others as she
Did I hear
pointed at
wrongly?
Asashel.
Let me repeat
This
it
guy
again.
will be the
The
consultant
guy
of the
called
supernatural
Dustless
research
Loki
department
and
from
now on.
Fenrir.
The
Asashel
white-haired
was like a
old
black
man's
hole,
eyeballs were about to
instantly
pop out of
attracting
their everyone's
sockets.
attention,
Yes, Sir
including
Odin.
Dustless.
The mature young
Call
lady
me Sir
nodded
Asashel.
and answered seriously.
Asashel grumbled
When
to
she
Riaz.
answered, she also
How
felt
rude
that
was it to
everything
call
she
his
saw
teacher
before was
that
just
guy?
an illusion.
This guy looks young on the surface, so he's probably an old
I
antique.
saw it with my own eyes.
Moreover, he looks
I saw
frivolous on the
Dustless defeat
surface,
Lord Loki,
and his attitude is
Lord
no
Loki
different
and
from
Fenrir
that of a
were
brat.
both half dead.
In reality,
especially
he's a
Fenrir.
very serious
It's
person.
doubtful if she can
Dustless
survive.
nodded to himself.
Losvia
pursed her lips and answered seriously.
Athashel was indeed
What kind
suitable
of
to be
monster
a
is it?
consultant for the
It's already a
supernatural
miracle
research
for a
lab.
person to be able to
Everyone
survive
is
when
done.
facing Luo
Please
Shen
leave
and the
with me.
god-killing wolf Fenrir
Eulethia
alone.
pointed at the
He was
magic
almost
formation
killed by
behind her
Loki
and
and
gestured elegantly.
What kind of monster is that?
Dustless's killing
From
spree
what
had
you said,
already
he
been
can use
forgotten.
skills with light.
He was just
Could
an
he be
ordinary
Jehovah?
person, and she treated
The
him
old
as an
muddle-headed
equal.
Odin said in
Evening at the
disbelief.
dinner of the
The
Jimenez
crowd
family.
stared with their eyes and mouths agape. Their breathing grew heavier. The head of the Supernatural Research Lab, Lias Gemengli, Junai Himejima, Kitten, Genova, and the others were all there. There was also Eulethia, Lias' mother, Vani Lana, Demon King Sizax, and 2 other Demon Kings. If it's that guy. It sounds exaggerated and unbelievable, but one thing is for sure. He's the only one who can do such a thing. The fallen angel governor, Asashel, who had witnessed Dustless's strength, said. He frowned and recalled, Dustless beat the white dragon emperor who was in Tyrannosaurus mode as easily as bullying a child. I personally think it's possible that he could beat Loki and Fenrir so badly. I think so too. He's very strong. Vani Lana, who was Lias' mother, said with a smile in her eyes, after all, he's Lias' fiancé. It's necessary for him to be able to beat a god. Similarly, this is also the basic requirement for being my lover. Vaini Lana added in her heart. However, some were happy and some were sad. Some were happy and some were depressed. That pervert can't really be the main god of the angels, right? The demon king Seraphil, who was currently the Leviathan, said gloomily. She was once forcefully pushed down by Dustless and almost couldn't get up for a few days. This matter had become a knot in her heart. In her heart, she had already labeled Dustless as a must-kill. Now that he was so strong, how could Seraphil endure it? How could she take revenge in the future? Could it be that she could just let it go and watch Dustless show off in front of her?
Absolutely not. All in all, let's talk about Dustless later. For now, let's sign a peace agreement, Lord Odin. The sharp-eyed topic showed signs of derailing. Syzax had to talk about business again. Compared to the alliance of several parties, this was a trivial matter. That's true. Odin nodded. Just as he was about to agree, an untimely sharp voice came. Old thief Odin, I didn't agree. Who allowed you to sign such a boring agreement? I firmly refuse to sign such an agreement. A blue light appeared in the space and a huge magic circle appeared. A man with a cold and gloomy expression stepped out of it. Loki? Everyone frowned, but when they saw Loki, who was covered in injuries, they laughed. Chapter 1365. It was no wonder that everyone was laughing. Loki was covered in wounds, his face was swollen, and there were even bandages on some parts of his body. This kind of situation was normal for a human, but if the other party was a god, it was too funny. At the same time, everyone understood that Lasvias was telling the truth. Loki's injuries were proof that the culprit was Dustless. Humph, how dare you guys laugh at me? Loki was furious. That hearty laughter was like a slap to his old face. It stung. Idiot, if you go back now, I'll let bygones be bygones, Odin said in a powerful tone. As the main god of Norse mythology, Odin had the right to be arrogant. Although he was old, his strength was undeniable. Let bygones be bygones? How arrogant. I'll hold you accountable. Loki sneered. He was not afraid of Odin at all. Seems like it's more lively than I thought. A frivolous tone was heard. Then, in the center of the hall, a large amount of light came from all directions. Dustless's body was faintly discernible. Gemenu? Why are you still alive? Loki's expression changed drastically. At the same time, he instinctively took a step back. He thought Dustless was dead. That's why he came to cause trouble. I didn't expect this unkillable cockroach to still be so popular. Could it be that the most powerful existence in the legends, the Great Red, is no match for this D*Mn bastard? When he thought of this, Loki's heart trembled. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Dense magic bullets shot out from Loki's hand. His target was the golden light. Boom boom boom. Loud explosions followed. Dustless, who had been compressed into his human form, was inevitably blown to pieces. You bastard. The girls from the paranormal research department glared at him. Although they were sure that the godlike Dustless would not be killed, Loki was despicable. It was despicable for him to want to kill Dustless before he could transform. It was against the will of a god. However, Loki himself didn't care. The dignity of a god was no longer important to him. As long as he could get rid of this eyesore who had a deep hatred for him, dignity wasn't important. Everyone attacked together. Riaz looked around with her beautiful eyes. The members of the paranormal research department were showing off their prowess. They had gone through a lot of training during this period and their strength had increased greatly. Lei Guang. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The dazzling magic attacks all landed on Loki's body, but he was completely fine. In the face of the endless attacks, he did not dodge or evade. He only relied on the hardness of his body to withstand the insignificant attacks with a calm expression. Oh my god. You bunch of small fries want to hurt me? Do you think this is a comedy movie? How vulgar. Loki sneered disdainfully. His face was full of arrogance and he was extremely arrogant. They can't, but what about me? Dustless's cold voice resounded behind Loki. He suddenly turned around and attacked Loki with a cold and merciless kick. Loki's body was immediately sent flying. The villa used for the gathering was even penetrated. You're just a loser and you still dare to be so arrogant. Even if you want to cause trouble, you should know who you are. Dustless stared at Loki, who was kicked away, and suddenly suspected that this guy's head was broken. Last time he let him go because he was chasing the Great Red. He thought that this guy could recognize his strength, but he didn't expect that this guy dared to take the initiative to provoke him. I'm thinking, what would happen if a god was killed? Dustless asked lightly. His words made everyone's expression change drastically. Even Syzax, who had been silent all this time, frowned slightly. Gulp, that's amazing. I didn't misjudge him. The offspring with him must be much better than Syzax and Riaz. Venerana's eyes were filled with lust, and her whole body exuded a seductive aura. Dustless showed his prowess and sent Loki, who was known as a god, flying with a kick. It was unforgettable. It was as if by following the man in front of her, the whole world was in her hands. At the same time,
Seraph's heart was broken into pieces. She knew that it was impossible for her to take revenge. Loki was kicked to the point where he couldn't even tell his direction. If it were her, she wouldn't be much stronger. You be asterisk starred. What happened to my mouth? Loki's old face twitched violently. He found that he couldn't even speak clearly. It was as if someone had stuffed something in his throat. It was extremely difficult to call out Dustless's name. Idiot, haven't you realized yet? Your face is crooked from my kick. Ignoring Loki's hateful eyes that wanted to eat him alive, Dustless explained while mocking him. Don't worry, at most you can't speak clearly. You can still eat. You won't starve to death. Pfft. Hearing that, Riaz and the others couldn't help but laugh out loud. Their seductive looks hooked the worm in Dustless's stomach. His eyes gleamed as he stared at the group of beautiful women. I'm engaged to Riaz. I've already gotten her old lover, Venerana, and her sister-in-law, Gulifia. It would be a waste to leave her, the first wife, alone. With a decision in his mind, Dustless planned to take away Riaz's most precious thing after he dealt with Loki. They were already engaged anyway, and it wouldn't matter if their relationship took another step forward. Chapter 1366. Dustless looked at Riaz with a restless mind. Even though he had seen and even touched every part of her body, in the end, the last layer of membrane was still not torn off. This time, I must completely tear apart the barrier between you and me. Dustless smiled foolishly as if he had fallen into endless reverie. Full of loopholes. Loki saw that Dustless was in a daze and immediately realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He gathered all the magic in his body and turned it into a large number of magic circles. Vroom vroom vroom, every magic circle was shining and pulsing, and the destructive light was terrifying. The power of a single magic circle could easily destroy a green mountain, let alone hundreds and thousands of them. It was not difficult to see Loki's hatred for Dustless. How is this guy a god? He's despicable and shameless, and now he's scheming. Riaz's people were furious. Dustless was floating in the sky and no one knew what he was thinking. There was a smile on his face and sometimes there was a wretched smile. Obviously he had fallen into endless fantasy. You are sent by the heavens to go against this god. Disappear with my hatred for you. As soon as he said that, the thousands of magic circles shot out a bright light at the same time. However, Dustless still did not react. Dustless, listen to me. Riaz, who was panicking, quickly shouted at Dustless. Her face was red and she finally gritted her teeth. If you can defeat Loki this time, you can do whatever you want to me and I won't resist. Gulp. This was the sound of nature, the words that Dustless had always wanted to hear, and finally pulled his thoughts out of his fantasy. He looked at the incoming flashes and curled his lips in disdain. I said it before. Loki, you're just a child in my eyes. As soon as he said that, a large amount of chakra energy waves erupted from Dustless's body. Vroom vroom vroom. The silent earth suddenly trembled and a blazing aura seeped out. This seems to be the temperature of magma. Everyone retreat quickly. Aware of the danger, Syzax ordered loudly. At the same time he did not forget to retreat. Uchiha flame formation. A transparent barrier rose from the ground, sealing off the entire sky. The flame barrier trembled, emitting a huge destructive power. Anything that got close to it was destroyed and even steel was melted into water. The scene was extremely horrifying. The flame barrier, which was several dozen meters tall, radiated a lethal temperature. Even from several hundred meters away, one could feel the scorching heat of the flame cage. If one was careless, they would be caught in the crossfire. Wah wah wah. As for those flashing magic bombs, they were even more miserable. Not to mention Dustless, who was behind the enchantment was evaporated before it could even touch it. Not only that, but Loki himself was also heavily injured. His whole body was black and his pure white clothes were burned full of stains. His image was ruined, and what was even more hilarious was that Loki's hairstyle, which was considered good in front of him, was burned by Dustless until not a single hair was left. Loki's gorgeous head became bald. Yo yo yo. Why did Lord Loki become like this? It shouldn't be. Could it be? Our respected goddess Sama is cosplaying? I didn't expect you to have such interests and such a strong taste. You actually chose to dress up as a beggar. Seeing Loki's embarrassed appearance, Dustless joked with a smile. It's one thing for you to be shockingly strong, but even your mouth is so vicious. You're the only one who gets all the good things. God is really unfair. Loki said in a gloomy and depressed voice. He looked at his whole body, and it was indeed no different from a strange appearance. His trousers were burned and his long black legs were exposed. He was also burned bald and his face was dark. He was indeed a serious beggar. Seeing this, Loki was furious. He was a dignified god, but he was beaten by Dustless into a beggar. His broken heart was broken even more thoroughly. All turned into powder. Although I am no match for you, but... Aha, they are definitely no match for me. Loki laughed arrogantly. At this point he had already given up on the idea of defeating Dustless, because it was completely overconfident. There was no other way but to humiliate himself. So Loki set his sights on Ryaz and the others. If he couldn't defeat the big one, he could bully the small one. This bastard has disgraced the Norse gods. Seeing this, Odin was so angry that his old face turned green. He had never seen a god as despicable as Loki, and he understood Loki's glowing eyes the best. He can't defeat Dustless, so he chose to attack his fiancée. What a despicable method. Asashel and the others frowned. They were extremely disgusted by the evil god Loki. This bastard was too shameless. Damn it! Dustless naturally noticed Loki's abnormality at the first moment, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Your opponent is not me, now it's a different person. Loki smiled mysteriously, and then he snapped his fingers very calmly. The bright sky suddenly turned dark, and a big silver wolf descended from the sky, opening his stinky mouth to bite Dustless. My opponent is Ryaz Jimenez and the others, and your opponent is Fenrir. No, it should be Fenrir who is holding you back. He is far from being your opponent, but the short time Fenrir is holding you back is enough for me to kill Ryaz Jimenez and her family. Loki thought confidently, but in the next second, the sky inexplicably began to rain blood. Pucci. Fenrir, who Loki trusted and used to stall for time, was instantly killed by Dustless. Chapter 1367. Blood was raining down from the sky, and the stench spread to every corner of the sky. Everyone looked at Fenrir, who was lying on the ground in disbelief. Fenrir, who had once swallowed a deity, was now killed by an exaggerated sword strike. Just how abnormal was Dustless' original body? This was not tofu that could be cut open in an instant. This was a god. A hungry wolf that had once swallowed a god. And it was such a deity that had devoured a deity, but now he was actually killed by Dustless in such an easy manner. That casual and simple appearance gave people the illusion that he was violently beating up a child. It was simply unbelievable. Unforgivable. Loki was dumbfounded. Fenrir's body that had been split into two did not scare him away. Instead, it made Loki's heart ache. He clenched his teeth so hard that they were broken. You have to be buried with Fenrir, you damn bastard. Loki roared like a psychopath. His words revealed a hysterical brutality. This ferocious beast was completely enraged by Dustless's cruel means. His partner that he had spent all his time with was split into two. Loki's heart had already gone berserk. His hatred for Dustless and the others had also climbed to an unprecedented level. You still don't want to give up? Facing Loki's ferocious gaze, Dustless just pursed his lips and smiled. Go to hell. Loki roared crazily, his tone was a little sharp. Boom, boom, boom. His shrill voice echoed in the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. However, this guy said that he would tear Dustless into pieces and burn his bones to ashes, but his actions were despicable beyond imagination. He knew that he was no match for Dustless, so he turned into a ray of light and rushed towards Ryaz and the others. His speed in the blink of an eye was not any slower than the speed of light. Idiot, you are digging your own grave. Seeing this, the main god of Norse mythology, Odin, cursed in his heart. Capture Ryaz to threaten Dustless? Frankly speaking, this was a good plan, and it was the only way out for Loki at the moment. However, he had neglected the most important thing. Doing so would truly enrage Dustless, a super mythological beast that could destroy the world. Ggggg ha ha ha. A series of strange laughter came out of Loki's mouth. Loki was so excited that he seemed to be dancing. Fenrir's hatred is because you women first. First what? Pucci. The cold voice stopped Loki. His ferocious smile froze on his face, and he suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his arm. Loki was stunned and looked over subconsciously. Blood continuously spurted out from his left arm. This is only the beginning. I originally wanted to give you a dignified death, but you didn't cherish it, so who can you blame? Dustless asked back. At the same time he took out a dark red flaming katana. The blade was wrapped in a large amount of high-density flames, making it impossible for people to rely on it. Bankai, Remnant Flame Tachi. Following Dustless's command, the blade of the Tachi changed once again, and all the flames disappeared. However, the tip of the blade only emitted a wisp of steam, and the raging flames seemed to have been extinguished. What's going on? Asashel, Sazax, and even Odin, the main god of the Norse mythology system, exclaimed with solemn expressions. What's wrong? The naturally naive kitten was confused. Not only her, but Riaz and the others were also confused. Why are they all so serious? Is there anything wrong? Hito Ichijo was also confused. He just felt that the weather had become hotter and was a little uncomfortable. As time went by, he felt more and more uncomfortable. That guy used some kind of powerful attack. The water in the entire world is mysteriously evaporating for some reason. Maybe it has something to do with that weapon. That bastard called Loki has really angered him. He's going to bring bad luck to the entire world. The Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet emitted an emerald glow, and Drake's voice followed. This guy is going to destroy the world. Hearing this, Bing Ting took a deep breath and asked in disbelief, so you're saying that if Dustless and Loki fight, this world will collapse sooner or later? Should we leave the underworld in advance? Or else we'll be dragged into it? If there was danger in the underworld, they could just run away or stay away from the center of the battle. You idiot, you can feel it too. The water in your body is rapidly evaporating. Don't move. That scary man only needs to stand still and the world will be destroyed. The water in our bodies will also rapidly evaporate, and will become dry corpses. Drake said unhappily. Hito Ichijo was too naive and ignorant. At the same time, the environment of the underworld was also changing rapidly. Everyone was shocked to find that the blood flowing in their bodies was disappearing at an accelerated rate. The moist ground was slowly drying up, and shocking cracks were appearing. The flowers and trees were also withering at an accelerated rate. The entire world was shrouded in a shadow. Some people even found out that they could slowly die before they could even figure out their enemy. Wu Chen's original body stood quietly in the void, holding the Zanka no Tachi in his hand. He didn't need to make any extra movements. Sooner or later, all the water in the world would evaporate, and the underworld might be completely destroyed. Loki was also terrified. He used Dustless as an example. Recently, he had felt the sharpness of Zanka no Tachi the most. The ugly charred blade could not be touched or one would be burned alive. For a moment he even forgot about the pain of losing his arm. Chapter 1368. The sharpness of Zanka no Tachi swept across the world. This was the oldest and most powerful Zanka no Tachi. Its temperature was enough to flatten the world. All the creatures in the underworld sensed that their bodies were evaporating rapidly. Even the so-called gods were no exception. They couldn't escape the curse of Zanka no Tachi. What's going on? Is this all because of that weapon? Loki's face twitched. To be honest, he didn't have the confidence to fight Dustless anymore. That's good stuff. If I had such a powerful weapon, even the infinite dragon god and the great red wouldn't be able to defeat me. Loki sobbed. His face was filled with greed. You can't even keep your life and you still want Zanka no Tachi? You're right, the ignorant are fearless. Dustless's emotionless eyes looked at Loki. In his eyes, Loki was already a dead body. I'll take your weapon. That kind of weapon is only suitable for a god like me. In order to resist the pressure and impact of Zanka no Tachi, Loki's body was covered with dense magic arrays. He pounced on Dustless fiercely. You want to die so fast? Dustless shook his head. He waved Zanka no Tachi again, and a ray of hot sword energy whizzed out. Zanka no Tachi, north, ashes of heaven and earth. Loki's eyes were filled with excitement. He could already see Odin and the infinite dragon god trembling in fear when he swept across the world with Zanka no Tachi. Even when the blade slashed at him, he ignored it completely. With so many magic arrays protecting me, it shouldn't be a problem. Loki comforted himself. He set up a large number of defensive magic arrays on his body, and he was confident that he could temporarily resist the sharpness of Zanka no Tachi. However, Loki immediately regretted it in the next second. Boom boom boom. A violent explosion suddenly sounded. Zanka no Tachi's blade tore apart the magic arrays on Loki's body in an invincible manner. Deadly flames came into contact with Loki's body. Poof. Loki's remaining right arm was mercilessly chopped off. Even his shoulder was fatally injured. A large part of it was burned. Bang bang bang. Rocky, who had suffered a heavy blow, lost his balance and fell to the ground. Hee hee, Loki sneered uncharacteristically. I curse you, and don't be naive. Stretch out your neck and accept your punishment. Any attack of yours is just a joke to me. Dustless spoke in an indifferent tone. Although he was incomparably arrogant and didn't put a god in his eyes, no one dared to stand out and oppose him. They just wanted this farce to end quickly, otherwise all of them might be buried with Loki. Zen Flame Tachi, West, Broken Sun Prison Robe. The golden flames revolved around Dustless's body and did not disperse. Everything that came into contact with Dustless was vaporized by the high temperature of 1,500 degrees. In this state, Dustless was invincible, and all the attacks that came into contact with him were annihilated. Haha, that's all there is to it. No one has managed to kill me. Even though he had lost his arms, Loki still stood up and mocked Dustless. I am a god. In front of me you are nothing. Dustless continued to move forward and murmured, You are still alive and that is my mercy. The reason why I have kept you alive until now is to make an example out of those who want to harm Rias and Junai. This is what will happen to them. You will die with your limbs cut off. Dustless announced cruelly, and then darted in front of Loki and swung Zen Flame Tachi. Blat, blat. Loki's legs were mercilessly cut off by Dustless, and he rolled on the ground in agony. Disappear, Loki. Looking at Loki who was in agony, Dustless decided to send him to heaven, and be a good person until the end. Sir, please wait a moment. Seeing that Dustless was about to kill the god of his own pantheon, Odin's old face suddenly felt embarrassed. If Loki was killed by Dustless like a dog, how could the gods of Norse mythology survive in the future? What's the matter? As long as it's not about letting Loki go, just say it. Dustless turned his head and glanced at Loki, labeling him as a must-kill. Ugh. Odin almost bit his tongue when he heard that, and the words that were about to come out of his mouth stopped abruptly. He looked at Dustless a little woodenly, and obviously wanted to say something to plead for Loki. If you are pleading for Loki, then I am sorry. I can understand why he wants to kill me, but the despicable people who plotted against my women must suffer my sky-burning fire. Dustless still insisted, and there was no room for negotiation. Do you think I will thank you? Odin, you old bastard. At this moment, Loki's hysterical roar came, and he glared at Odin with fire in his eyes. If he did not insist on forming an alliance, none of this would have happened today. In the end, it was this old guy's fault for being reckless, and he had to admit that he was defeated by Dustless. After all, he was not strong enough, and he was really no match for Dustless's strength that could shatter mountains with a raise of his hand. Even now, you still insist on your point of view? There must be no cure, Loki. After sighing, Odin closed his eyes, implying that he acquiesced to Dustless killing Loki. Disappear the so-called god. 96 of Dowbreaker, 1 blade cremation. The blade-shaped flame rose from the ground, engulfing Loki in one fell swoop and completely erased him. Chapter 1369. The scene fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at Dustless in fear and involuntarily took a few steps back. It was not that they were cowards, but this guy was just too brutal. He killed a god just like that. His swift and decisive means shocked everyone. Especially after Dustless showed his original appearance with Zenka no Tachi, everyone was afraid and in awe of him. Compared to Dustless, who was a superhuman with a cheat code, demons and gods were nothing. Let's end this here. Let's all get along in the future. Odin smiled, but it looked a little forced. Well, it was true. A god of the Norse mythology system was killed right in front of him. He was indeed embarrassed. However, although he was unhappy, Odin could only swallow it and endure it. Firstly, it was Loki's problem to begin with. Secondly, Dustless was not hostile to the gods of the Norse mythology system. On the contrary, Odin had heard that the relationship between Lothveus and Dustless was barely okay. This was another relationship card. And the most important factor was that Odin had witnessed Dustless's godlike strength with his own eyes. He could not help but feel fear. It was as simple as beating up a child. I'm sorry, Lord Odin. I didn't expect this banquet to turn out like this. Syzax walked over with an apologetic look. Was he really wrong? Of course not. He was just trying to make Loki feel better. After all, a Norse god had just died. No need to care. Loki deserved it. Odin waved his hand. Syzax did not need to care about such a small matter. At the same time, he insisted, let's sign the alliance agreement soon. Everyone must work together to deal with the threat of Calamity Mass. Deal with Calamity Mass? Hearing this, Dustless looked at Odin with interest. These words were equivalent to going against him. After all, whether it was the infinite dragon god Orpheus or the Great Red, they were all on Dustless's side. Now they were all in the same trench. Forget it, a great person will not hold a grudge against a petty person like you. I won't lower myself to your level. Dustless did not say anything. He walked leisurely toward Riaz and the others, ignoring the prying eyes of others. The next morning, after yesterday's battle, Dustless, who was deeply fatigued, was in a deep sleep. He didn't even notice the person who had ambushed him. When he woke up the next morning, the big bed was already filled with people. What's going on? We've been ambushed. Dustless was speechless when he opened his eyes. He realized that his left and right hands were held tightly by Aisha and Riaz. His left and right legs were also being measured by Genova and Wisteria Rena. And the worst thing was that he found a beautiful body sleeping on his stomach. This is Yunai? What do you want? Are we mobilizing the entire club? Dustless could not help but smile bitterly when he saw this. His being taken apart was not the worst part. He suddenly realized that his back was aching, and there were all kinds of lip marks all over his body. What the F***ck? If I knew you guys were going to ambush me, I wouldn't have fallen asleep. I didn't even feel anything. What a loss. Dustless grumbled in annoyance. At the same time, he gently shook off the women's hold. Looking at the marks all over his body, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He could only go take a bath again. Early in the morning, in the hot spring of the Gimli family, Dustless thought that there would be no one. However, he did not expect to see 3 vague silhouettes in the steam. Forget it. I'll come back later. Dustless frowned and decided to leave. Era. We're not tigresses. As the son-in-law of the Gimli family, don't you think that you have to communicate with Riaz's sister-in-law and her mother, Lord Chin? A seductive and teasing tone came from the steam. Dustless could already see a perfect body. Sorry, Auntie. Why are you here? Wu Chen's slightly bored face lit up. He found an unexpected figure, and his pupils widened a little in an instant. Her silver hair was like a white ribbon. It was very soft. Even though she had been soaked in the hot spring water, her perfect silhouette was impeccable. Her tall nose made her look even cuter. Especially her face, which was still blushing, looked very shy and attractive. One could not help but want to take a bite and taste her fragrance. This guy changes women too quickly. He used to look at me with those perverted eyes. Now he ignores my existence and treats me like air, Riaz's mother, Vainilana, said with a sour tone. She turned to look at the silver-haired girl in front of her. Her eyes were filled with jealousy. The change is hard to accept. Eulifia nodded in agreement. It didn't make sense for a peerless demon to ignore her and Vainilana, who were barely covered in clothes. Ahem. Losvase, I didn't expect to see you here. What a coincidence. Dustless calmly sat beside Losvase. The girl's fragrance immediately entered his nose. I was a bit tired yesterday, so I came to relax. Who knew you would come too? Losvase blushed. She wanted to put some distance between her and Dustless. But when she remembered the mission left by their main god, Odin, she could not help but have a headache. It was very troublesome. Losvase finally compromised with the mission. Not only did she not put some distance between her and Dustless, she even purposely moved closer. Because they were so close, they could feel each other's body temperature and the touch of their skin. It could not be helped. They were too close. This unusual action made Eulifia and Vainilana frown. A hint of displeasure flashed in their eyes. Chapter 1370. Latvia's face blushed like a ripe apple. Her body was still filled with a seductive fragrance. She seemed to have noticed the invisible hostility from Vainilana and Eulifia. Awkwardness flashed across her face. He inwardly exclaimed, Sir Odin, the missions you give aren't easy to complete. A few hours ago in Odin's room, the Norse main god Odin was sitting in front of the window. The bright sun shone on him. It was warm and comfortable. He was enjoying his tea. Standing beside him was none other than Rose Vies. What do you think of Dustless, Latvia? After a while, Odin opened his turbid eyes and stared at Latvia's face for a few seconds. Him? Hearing this, Lathwise could not help but frown deeply. She said bluntly, he's not bad and he's very strong. The only flaw is that he has too many women. Too many women? That's not a problem. That's the privilege of the strong. Odin said disapprovingly. In his eyes this was not a flaw. It was just a small matter. Everyone loved beauty. The only thing that people didn't dare to compliment was that Wu Chen's heart was a little too broad. If all the women gathered together, they could form a reinforced company. Putting down the teacup in his hand, Odin said seriously, I have an important mission for you. It's related to the survival of the Norse mythological system. Lord Odin. Even if I die, I'll give you the mission. Latvia nodded seriously. She was so touched that she was about to cry. She did not expect Odin to value her so much that he would give her such an important mission. Very good. Odin beamed a satisfied smile and said seriously, you go and seduce that kid Wu Chen. With my vicious fiery gold eyes, I can see that he's interested in you. If you seduce him, you'll get twice the result with half the effort. Plop. Hearing this, Lothwise lost her balance and fell to the ground. Her beautiful eyes looked at Odin speechlessly. Her angry eyes were clearly saying, I'm going to die generously. So you want me to seduce him? Lord Odin, what does the life and death of the gods in the Norse mythology system have to do with him? With your existence, is he stronger than you? Latvia stood up and asked in confusion. Hearing this, Odin's expression of enjoyment instantly disappeared and was replaced with a solemn expression. First of all, I'm already old. I'm not as good as the young ones. Secondly, even if I were to face him at my peak, it would probably be a one-sided annihilation. There wouldn't be any battle experience. Odin sighed. His tone was filled with melancholy. Time was unforgiving and it was time for him to be buried in peace. There was no such thing as eternal immortality. Phew. In other words, Sir Odin is still confident in defeating Dustless. Hearing this, Lothwise revealed a joyful expression, but there was a faint dissatisfaction in her heart. You've misunderstood what I meant. Odin rolled his eyes and smiled bitterly. He opened the window and said frankly, I'm saying that the one who would be annihilated in the end is me, not Dustless. In other words, I'm not his match. Latvia's beautiful eyes widened. She could not help but pause and lower her head. Then why is he still so respectful when speaking to Lord Odin? Latvia asked in confusion. If Dustless's strength was far beyond Odin's, there was no need for him to respect him. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. Maybe it's because I'm old, Odin said without hesitation. Then he snorted. Not everyone is like that idiot Loki who thinks that he can look down on everyone just because he's strong. He deserved to be killed. That's why it's important to hook up with Dustless. The two of you are familiar with each other and he has feelings for you. The future world is ever-changing, and there are countless strong people in this world. If you can become one of his wives, the Norse mythological system will have another layer of security in the future. Odin said seriously. Loki's incident had taught Odin a lesson. There were too many strong people in this world. One day some ignorant bastard might provoke an unprecedented person. Loki was an example. If that person were to vent his anger on the Norse mythological system, Dustless's role as a relative would come in handy. So, Lord Odin's mission is so embarrassing. Latvia, who was in the hot spring, was helpless. She and Dustless could even feel each other's skin rubbing against each other. The benefits are coming so soon? Sensing Latvia's strange behavior, Dustless was confused. No matter what, I'm a bastard who doesn't take advantage of her. Since she's already in my mouth, I'll take her first. Dustless smiled with joy. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind. The aftereffects of yesterday's battle with Loki are coming. My head hurts and my body is seriously exhausted. It's so uncomfortable. Dustless's face was pale and his body was shaking. Then, under the gaze of Vaini Lana and Gilifia, then he fell into Latvia's arms. This is too fake. Vaini Lana and Gilifia were speechless. They had witnessed the fierce battle between Dustless and Loki that day. Although Loki was called a god, he was beaten up by Dustless. He didn't suffer at all, and the aftereffects were nonsense. Chapter 1371. Hearing that, Dustless smiled and did not say anything, lying comfortably in Latvia's arms. Ayaya. Really, that bastard Loki really hit me hard. My body is still sore. The gods of your Norse mythology system are really strong. Dustless complained as he gently rubbed his sore arms and made a painful expression. His eyes rolled around Latvia and finally, a sly expression flashed across his face. Staring at Latvia's dark red cheeks, Dustless deliberately laid in her arms and rubbed against her. Aya! Losvia exclaimed. The towel she used to cover the important parts of her body had been knocked off by Dustless's tumbling. Her body was exposed. Even so, remembering Odin's order, Latvia did not push Dustless away. This guy must be doing it on purpose. He was obviously suppressing Loki, and Loki, who is far away in the underworld, is crying in the toilet. Latvia was helpless. Remembering Odin's order, she could only let it be. She was doing this for the gods of the Norse mythology system. Not only that, but Latvia's delicate hands were also circling around Dustless, taking the initiative to massage his shoulders. She looked like a pretty girl from a humble family, making people want to take pity on her. This bastard. Forgetting his old love when he has a new one, Venlana complained. Doesn't she know that I'm her mother-in-law? Venlana complained, her tone filled with jealousy. Doesn't she know that I'm her mother-in-law? How dare he do it with other people in front of me? Arrogant guy, I must tell Rias to punish you. Although her words sounded nice, Venlana was actually helpless. She could only protest verbally. She believed that Rias was also helpless against Dustless's personality. It was impossible to tame this kind of person. That old guy Odin should have said something to you, right? Dustless, who was lying in Latvia's arms, opened his eyes and looked into her clear eyes. His bright eyes seemed to be able to see through everyone's thoughts. I want to hand it over to Lord Odin. Latvia grabbed a handful of silver and said bluntly, Lord Odin did want to hand me over to you? At this point, Latvia stared at Dustless with a slightly nervous expression. Alai alai. Another one who wants to marry me? Dustless made a distressed expression. He understood Odin's thoughts. Humans were like this. Once they were strong, they would be coveted by everyone. What are your plans? Rejected? Latvia asked. Of course not. Our relationship is so close. How could I let you go to that rotten old man Odin's place to suffer? Dustless put on a don't worry expression and said with bad intentions. However, having more people means more mouths to feed. Our family's expenses have long been seriously over the limit. When the time comes, I might be forced to work outside by Junai. As the initiator, shouldn't you compensate me now? Staring at Latvia's voluptuous body, Dustless's smile was extremely perverted. Ahem. You two should at least pay attention. Don't treat me and Lady Venelana like air. Especially since you are Ria's fiancé. You should pay more attention to your image. Gilifia stood up and scolded Dustless, her face serious. This woman is really unreasonable when she's in work mode. Dustless looked at Gilifia in confusion. He was impressed by her professionalism. It was not easy to be in work mode no matter the time and place. However, it was useless against Dustless. Not only that, but he even teased, Miss Gilifia, could it be that you're jealous of Latvias? If you don't mind, you can use my legs. In your dreams. Gilifia's face flashed with anger. Dustless's teasing gaze made her uncomfortable. Her face was as red as an apple, almost dripping blood. You are now the son-in-law of the Gimli family. You represent the Gimli family's image. Gilifia reiterated solemnly. This woman is always making things difficult for me, I have to teach her a lesson. Dustless's ears were about to grow calluses from Gilifia's nagging every day. Hee. Dustless's eyes flashed with a smug smile. His powerful mental force rushed into Gilifia's mind. Do you need a back rub? This is one of my responsibilities as a maid. Gilifia's words were shocking. Gilifia's expression changed instantly. Her stern expression was replaced by a gentle one. Her gaze towards Dustless was also filled with gentleness. Dustless used an illusion to change Gilifia's vision, making her think that he was Sizax. Gilifia? Are you not feeling well? Or are your eyes playing tricks on you? Riaz's mother, Venelana, frowned. This was unbelievable. Gilifia usually avoided Dustless as much as she could, so why would she help him rub his back now? I'm a little tired after working the whole day. I'm very grateful that you're willing to rub my back. Dustless replied with a smile. Only an idiot would refuse such a thing. Let's go together, Latvia. Ignoring her panic, Dustless hugged her without warning and whispered, Gilifia wants to rub my back, but I'm used to lying on my stomach. If I sit, my back will hurt. Damn it, there's no place for me to lie down, so I'll have to borrow your body. Let me lie down. Without asking for Latvia's permission, Dustless put her down on the ground and climbed up. Their bodies overlapped. Chapter 1372. Latvia stared blankly at the shameless Dustless. Her head was spinning and she was completely dumbfounded. Her mouth was wide open as she stared at Dustless, who was lying on top of her. Latvia could feel that her proud cleavage had been squashed into a meat patty by Dustless. But she could not care less about that at this moment. How dare he let Riaz's sister-in-law Gulifia scrub his back in front of mother-in-law Vainilana, and more importantly, he used me as a cushion. Even Lolth did not know how to express her emotions in this situation. This guy was simply a peerless demon king who was not afraid of anything. Not only did he do whatever he wanted in front of mother-in-law, he even winked at Vainilana and molested her. Latvia gave him a thumbs up and sighed. Not bad. Very comfortable, Gulifia, as expected of my maid. Dustless smiled and praised, completely ignoring Latvia's stupor. He laughed in his heart. So what if I'm like this? Even if Sazax himself and Riaz's old man saw it, they wouldn't dare say anything. My fist is the biggest. He was just like the evil god Loki who had been killed before. He was arrogant and did not care about morality. The only difference was that Dustless was far stronger than Loki. Time passed quickly, and before he knew it, he had fallen asleep under Gulifia and Latvia's careful care. This caused Vainilana, who was at the side, to blow her beard and glare. She lowered her feet and stomped her chest, feeling indignant. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. It was close to evening when it was close to night. Dustless and the people from the Paranormal Research Department went out for a walk. They strolled in the fresh air of the dense forest, filled with the natural fragrance of oxygen. It was refreshing and energizing. How rare. You actually came out for a walk with us. Riaz looked rather surprised because Dustless looked like a lazy person. He would not even exercise after a meal, let alone take a walk. Sleeping after eating was the most realistic portrayal of Dustless. Don't make it sound so bad. After all, I'm your fiancé. You have to protect my image, especially when there are other people here. Dustless looked at Riaz unhappily. Junai and Aisha were also there. As for the other girls, they were all combative people who liked to train. Era. What do you mean by other people? It seems that Lord Chin is treating us as outsiders. Could it be that our relationship is not close enough? I'm so sad. Are you sad too, Aisha? Junai's tone was gloomy, filled with hidden bitterness. However, there was a smile on her face as if she was teasing Wuchin. Yes, Aisha is sad too. Disappointment flashed in her gem-like eyes. Aisha nodded and said sourly, ever since Dustless became the fiancé of the department head, the number of times we spoke could be counted on one hand. Our relationship has fallen. In this world, Dustless is Aisha's most important family member. Then Aisha locked her gaze on Dustless's face, as if she was afraid that he would run away. That's your illusion. Why would I abandon you? Dustless gently flicked Aisha's forehead. He rubbed her long blonde hair and comforted her. He rolled his eyes at Junai. The latter just shrugged and had an expression that said it had nothing to do with him. Vroom vroom vroom. Suddenly the dark forest lit up, pulsating with an unusual light. A beautiful girl in revealing clothes walked out of the light slowly. Her every move exuded charm. She had cute cat-like ears and her misty eyes were filled with lust. She was a living demon. So it's you, Black Song of Taching. You're finally here? I guess you're planning to betray the White Dragon Emperor Wally. Dustless was very calm. It was the complete opposite of the three girls who looked like they were about to face a great enemy. Maintain the formation. Junai is in charge of air support. Aisha is in charge of... These are all superfluous. There's no need for that. You three can go back. Leave her to me. Dustless glanced at Riaz. Seeing her slightly resistant face, he smiled and said, Don't you believe in my strength? You guys will only discourage me if you stay here. Who knows? Disaster Mass might be plotting something against the underworld. Quickly tell your brother Sazax about this and let him prepare in advance to deal with any changes. I know. You have to be careful. Riaz nodded silently. Finally, she took a deep look at Black Song of Taching. Her cold eyes seemed to be warning her not to do anything rash. Oh, don't worry. Although he's very handsome, I won't have children with him. Black Song of Taching teased her playfully, purposely angering Riaz. This guy really knows how to rub salt into my wound. Dustless frowned. He knew that Black Song of Taching was doing it on purpose. His goal was to drive a wedge between him and Riaz. Riaz only snorted softly. She then glared at Dustless fiercely and left. Women are indeed stingy. Dustless rubbed his head speechlessly. He felt like he was being attacked even when he was lying down. Black Song of Taching, it's been 7 days since you said last time. What's your decision? Do you want to join my faction or continue to stay with the White Dragon Emperor Wally? I hope you don't make others feel like you're a scapegoat.
Otherwise, you might not be able to see your sister for the rest of your life. That you're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.